The story begins with the question, do you believe in fate, and do you believe that fate will lead you to a different ending? Depending on what choice you made, the boy flew as if into an abyss while unconscious. Or do you believe that no matter what, the choices you make will ultimately lead you to the same ending? People were screaming for help and a fire was burning all around. The girl asked not to approach. The boy screamed, begging for help. Monsters with human faces are too scary. People asked not to come near and ran away. But there was nowhere to run and they were very scared. There was a cliff ahead and it was necessary to hide quickly as the monster was approaching. The girl sat behind a stone and trembled with fear. She asked the monster not to notice her and not to come here. She constantly repeated these words while sitting behind a stone. But the monster was already approaching her. It appeared right before my eyes and was very creepy and scary. The girl trembled with fear and tears flowed from her eyes. She asked not to come. Explosions occurred in the form of bright, fiery lightning. Sparks flew in different directions. The boy also sat behind one of the stones and realized that this was the Devil's Star. And this test is too difficult for beginners. They said that he didn't just need to last on the Devil's Star for 5 minutes after using the job shift material to complete the tasks, but for a normal person to survive even a minute among these evil, creepy monsters. The main character's name is Gian Kai, and he is now in the middle. Tests for newcomers on this planet called the Devil's Star. The Devil's Star is a huge planet that appeared out of nowhere on Earth 50 years ago. But the appearance of the devilish star did not cause a gravitational catastrophe that could have caused the Earth to deviate from its orbit. And yet, since the appearance of the Devil's Star, the animals and flora on Earth have mutated into monsters. These monsters were called beast deities and wreaked havoc throughout the world. Divine beasts are something that current human technology is unable to unite, and their appearance has brought humanity to the brink of extinction. But during this desperate period, the surviving people learned that many mysterious teleportation portals had appeared on Earth. People were sent digitally to the Devil's Star as soon as they passed through the portal, and the moment they arrive at the Devil's Star, they realize that the Devil's Star appears to be a hyper-realistic virtual world. They walked further and further, and a new, wonderful world opened up before them. In this world, people can engage in various professions, and it's very entertaining. Everyone has stats, equipment, skills, and can level up as if they were game characters by gaining powerful attributes. They even figured out that once he reached a certain level on the Devil's Star, they could bring that supernatural power back to Earth and use it. By then, people will be as strong as the beast in the real world, and they will also be able to fight against the beasts of Delhi. Ultimately, if humanity wants to escape this predicament and survive, they will have to try and gain the power of the Devil's Star. And those who decided to go to the Devil's Star are known as pioneers, and this is not good. Gian Kai is the only survivor here, but he has nowhere else to run. The monster was already approaching his stone and raised his hand with the weapon as high as possible above the boy. Did he spend all the money his family saved? Is he really here to wait for death? The little sister asked her brother to just do it. If he wanted to get to the Devil's Star, she and her older brother will do everything they can to save money for him. His little sister at such a young age went through all sorts of troubles just to save up money for him to come to Devil's Star. The older brother works hard despite being diagnosed with kidney failure. If they can't raise enough money to pay for the operation within 2 months, he will do it. And yet, right now, he hadn't even finished his shift of work. Will he really die here after the money saved by his family also goes to waste? The monster was already approaching the boy and he was ready to fall under its vile clutches. Instead of just sitting here and dying, he should risk his life for his family. Gian Kai ran away from the monster as quickly as possible, dodging its attacks. He ran faster and jumped when the blood-colored rays approached him. He decided that he had to hold on to his only change in order to survive. When the boy reached the edge of the cliff, he began to fall down into a huge, deep abyss. The monster looked at him from this abyss, being very angry that the victim had left him. And the boy kept flying and flying deeper into this abyss, looking at how the monster was looking at him. He clenched his teeth and droplets of scarlet blood flowed from his mouth. Suddenly, something tinkled next to him. The system reported that his actions perfectly matched the actions of those who gamble. The system congratulated the boy on becoming one of those who changed their profession once in a million. A secret profession is revealed. The secret profession was revealed, and he completed the profession change. They hope that he can bring glory to his secret profession. Gian Kai flew through the tall trees and, flying among the leaves, fell straight to the ground with his back. He opened his eyes and the boy's gaze changed, glowing green. He couldn't understand what was happening. He did not feel any pain after falling from the cliff, and all the wounds received before healed. The sound of the system sounded again, and a blue haze appeared in front of him, in the form of a monitor. The system reported that after changing his profession, his characteristics were updated. This is tantamount to rebirth. Gian Kai looked carefully at the system and asked if it was the artificial intelligence of the Devil Star. The system congratulated him on his successful change of profession, and now it will explain to him what talents he received as a gambler. All rewards and punishments issued by the system will be doubled. During the activation of the profession, the multiplier talent worked, so he will receive another gambler talent. The talent transfer finally worked and the multiplier appeared. Gian Kai was surprised that there was really one more profession talent while others only received one. The system replied that it was so, and his next talent was as follows. This is Super Crit. The critical damage from his attacks has been increased, and the initial critical strike chance is 0.1%. Now the boy had 36 stat points. Gian Kai asked if ordinary players only get 20 after changing professions. Where did he get 36? They can even be multiplied. This means that for each new level he will receive 20 points instead of 10. Isn't this equivalent to the fact that he will grow twice as fast as others? Gian Kai looked at what the system gave him. He thought that he also had extra crit. Suddenly, other players have only 200% critical damage, but he has as much as 20,000%. He decided that even if his chance was only 0.1%, he already had too many advantages. He will be able to pick it up, and then his damage will be simply abnormal. This is the weapon that thing used. It was stuck into the ground. He only planned to quickly change his profession after arriving here and earn money for his brother. Even with his weak profession, there is a lot of money to be made from the Devil Star, but he could not even imagine that he would receive a hidden and so powerful profession. Soon he will be able to save money and his family's life will improve. The system reported that he completed the task to change his profession. You must complete the quest by reaching the City of the Gods safe and sound. But this is just the beginning, and then he needs to act more confidently and complete the quest training zones. The boy thought that the main goal was to get to the City of the Gods in 7 days. It is extremely difficult to get there in one piece. The beginner area is overcrowded with monsters. If you die, the quest will fail and the player will be teleported back to Earth. The body on Earth will not suffer in any way, even if you die here. After this, you can get here again. Well, this is a small problem only for the rich. Rebooting your Devil Star profile costs a fortune, and the rich are not limited in their attempts. But poor people like him are obliged to pass it on the first try and nothing else. The boy began to move through the dry, burnt trees, deeper and deeper. He tried to walk as quickly as possible and was very careful, since the monsters could attack at any moment. He heard a familiar scream and hid near a huge high rock. A huge monster appeared near him and opened its evil mouth as it approached him. The monster began to approach one guy who was still alive. The guy closed his eyes and asked the Lord to drop him. He asked him to leave and exclaimed that he hated snakes. This guy's name was Yuju, and he was Gian Kai's childhood friend. The boy noticed his friend and realized that it was really him and he was in the snake's trap. Their poison is extremely strong. Even human-like animals will die from one bite. He is in great danger. Gian Kai asked his friend not to be afraid if he came to his aid. When Yuju saw his friend, he was very surprised and asked why he was here. The guy with tears in his eyes asked him to forget about him and leave quickly. He explained that they have very high characteristics and they are also poisonous. They don't stand a chance against these glorious monsters. But a friend, running away with a weapon in his hands, asked the guy not to worry. He was already approaching the monster. Yuju was very afraid and his eyes shone with tears and horror at the attack of the monster. Gian Kai held a sharp weapon in his hands and approached the enemy faster than him. The friend was very surprised that the boy could kill them. Gian Kai thought that this is very good and Yuju distracts them well, so he can attack from the blind spot. But now they're targeting him? His friends shouted after him to be careful. He explained to the boy that they have high dexterity. Gian Kai was even faster than these monsters and jumped over the huge evil snake. Yuju was even more surprised and, bulging his eyes, asked if he could really dodge something like this. The boy thought to himself that his stats were twice as high and equal to the second level. So he thought that first-level snakes were no match for him. He grabbed his weapon and headed forward. He gave Yuju the command to continue aggravating them. The boy immediately agreed and followed his friend's advice. He said that he distracted them just for a minute, and Gian Kai actually killed everyone. Gian Kai approached the system and noticed that his profession had high agility but low strength. But the damage is enough to kill level 1 monsters with one hit. This iron spear will perfectly help him increase his strength for a while. Strength is the basic characteristic responsible for attacking a star. Yuju approached his friend and hugged him, exclaiming that he had only heard that the newcomers died at the hands of monsters, but not the other way around. He asked his friend how he was able to defeat them. The boy replied that he was lucky and got the profession of a gambler, but he asks him not to dare to tell anyone about this. The friend said that he doesn't know how it is with him, but his profession is very good. He was a pioneer with the profession of a martial artist. When Gian Kai heard about the martial arts master, he said that now it is clear how he held out against the 3 snakes. She is in 5th place in the realm of the gods. No one knows how many professions there are on the Devil's Star. But the first thing people do when they get here is to get a profession. The profession they will receive depends on the quality of the material they have before entering. Rich people spend tens of millions on materials for themselves, and this is how they get very powerful professions after getting here. The poor cannot afford good materials to acquire a profession, so they are weak. The profession of a martial artist costs at least 50 million. He asked his friend if he had taken out a loan. Yuju replied that no, and the story is very long. He will tell him later. Gian Kai suggested in this case to collect materials from the snakes because, as he knows they can be sold, the boy thought to himself that the money earned here could be exchanged for the currency of the land. This will help him and his family. Speaking of Devil Star items by type of remains and equipment, once received, they turn into cards that can be traded and sold. The system issued the receipt of the remains of the island snake, and it can be disassembled. Judging by the battle, a gambling gambler is stronger than a martial artist. While they were talking, a girl began to run up to them and unexpectedly greeted them. The guys huddled close to each other, not understanding who was there, and glanced at the girl who suddenly appeared from the bushes. She approached them and said that her name was Su Ayayi. She cannot pass the test on her own and asked to join their team. Gian Kai apologized and said that it was difficult for them themselves, and with her, it would be even more difficult. The guys realized that this was just a pioneer, but the girl approached them and asked them not to leave her. She is a healer and can heal their wounds. She can also extract poison from snakes and improve their weapons if they still find them. She tearfully begged not to leave her. Yuju was very surprised that she could heal and buff, and that was very cool. Gian Kai thought about it and decided that a healer is one of the 10 valuable professions, and it would be nice to have a healer in this test. If he had not renounced then, he would have died already. He approached the girl and said that they agreed. He explained their names and said that they would get to their final destination together. The girl immediately thanked the guys for their kindness. Yuju asked his friend in his ear if he really liked her and changed his mind. Gian Kai promised to beat him up for this. At the same time, the Kingdom of the Gods, Jiangzhong City, Devil Star Portal Base number 18, in front of us in this huge building was a data research laboratory. The guy with glasses said that a wristwatch is a great invention. They can determine the location of the pioneers on the star with high accuracy. The girl replied that of course, as she knows, most watches on the market easily give out all kinds of devil data. And the more expensive the watch, the more functions it has. The girl's name was Su Lanlan, and she was the rookie test inspector. She asked Professor Lee how she was doing and if her younger sister was okay. Professor Lee replied that judging by the GPS data, most of the newcomers have already been weeded out, and her sister Su Ayai is now on a team with 2 people. Suddenly, a woman appeared in the window on the balcony and asked how such a cowardly girl was and joined a team with others. She told her not to join the teams. The woman became very angry. After all, the more newcomers gather in one place, the more monsters they attract. Indeed, the guys were already being watched by a monster that was peeking out from behind the tall trees. There were several of them, and they were hunting for the guys, approaching them faster and faster. 3 minutes later, the professor told Su Lanlan that there were indeed 2 human-like monsters next to Su Nuanuan. The girl got angry and exclaimed that even one was too much for a group of beginners, and against 2 they don't even have a chance. Death on a star is the same as losing characters in a game. Their body on the ground will not receive damage, but psychological trauma from the experience can cause serious harm. The professor explained that he watched as the monster bit off piece after piece of him. Su Lanlan began to head towards the exit and exclaimed that she would take Nuanuan for psychological tests. But Professor Lee began to tell the girl that 2 human-like monsters were approaching, and they died unexpectedly. which shocked the professor and the inspector. She ran to the monitor and asked what happened. Let's go back 3 minutes. The two evil monsters were approaching their opponents faster and faster. Su Yai, running away from one of them, exclaimed that apparently it was a human-like beast. She asked the guys to run as quickly as possible. Gian Kai thought that things were bad and they were not so agile. He was worried that his friends would probably fall into the clutches of monsters. The boy asked the girl to speed up. His friend was very scared and looked at Gian Kai. He asked him to run away and said that he would sort it out himself. Gian Kai took his weapon in his hands and thought that if they continue like this, they will all die together. Therefore, he decided to stay and kill these beasts immediately. Raising his weapon upward, he began to approach his opponents. He was already close to one of the monsters and pierced it with his sharp metal spear. The boy was very happy that he got into this evil monster. He held his weapon very tightly without letting go of it. Drops of blood fell on his fingers. The second monster approached faster and faster towards its opponents and struck Gian Kai. The boy couldn't understand how much health he had that couldn't be achieved with one hit. The monsters began to approach them and extended their evil paws with claws on their fingers straight towards him. The boy was very upset and decided that he could die in the newbie test, and apparently, this was the end. The guys watched what was happening, and the girl exclaimed that Kai was in danger. "We need to save him immediately." Yuju clenched his fists and, taking a breath, decided to come to the aid of his friend. Meanwhile, the residential area of the polluted river, it really wasn't colorful, and the sky was yellow-red from the emanating aromas and fumes. The woman asked if he was the one who gave Ju the materials for the work. She said that she was not sure how he assessed him, but her Yuju, although tall, was very timid. If he meets a monster, he will hardly dare to fight it. A woman brought tea to a man sitting on the sofa. The man took the cup and replied that it was so. Her child is very afraid of the monster. He began to sip tea and continued to say that he realized that he would never leave anyone in trouble. This guy is very timid in whatever situation he is in. Yuju at this time rushed to help his friend with a cry. He began to approach the enemy faster and faster. The boy forgot about his fear and began to knock over the monsters with his strength. He stood opposite the monsters, which had already flown far back, falling on their backs. Yuju asked his friend if he decided to protect him because he was weak. He clenched his fists and, using his abilities, exclaimed that they were brothers and brothers should try together. Gian Kai was surprised by this guy's devotion and gave him a frightened look. Yuju said with a cry that they should also die together, like brothers. He put his fist in front of him, which burned with bright yellow fire, and approached the monsters. A powerful explosion occurred, and the monsters fell onto the stones, breaking them into small fragments. Stones began to fly around. Even Gian Kai covered himself with both hands to prevent the fragments from hitting him. Will he be able to finish him off with one blow? Even if his damage is low, but can a martial artist do this? The boy pulled back and looked at his friend in surprise. Su Yai, in turn, was already approaching the boy and began to heal him. She asked him to hold on. Gian Kai asked Nuan what she forgot here, and she is not a fighter. Su Yai exclaimed that she would not leave. A doctor must treat people regardless of any fear. Her father lost the support of healers during the monster invasion and died because of it. The girl did not let up and told the boy that when her team needed support, could she leave it? She will never do this and will help in any situation, even if it threatens her life. Gian Kai stood up, gradually healing and reviving before his eyes. The boy was very surprised, feeling how his wounds were gradually healing. He was almost healed and, opening his eyes, began to slowly rise from the ground as strength began to flow into his body. Gian Kai, rising to his feet, exclaimed, looking at the girl, that she really is not afraid of death. He thought that even together, they would not have enough damage to kill the human-like beast. After all, these monsters are incredibly strong and evil. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him. The girl turned to him and said that if they met the same ones, she could extract the poison and strengthen their weapons with their own poison. Gian Kai remembered the girl's words and asked her if she knew how to extract poison from the bodies of these killed monsters. Su Yai replied that she could. The boy picked up one of the snakes and asked if it could treat Yuju and extract the poison at the same time. The girl put both hands forward, trying to do this, and answered the boy that she was not sure, but she would try. Gian Kai thought that if he guessed correctly, they could win. The monsters began to approach them faster and faster. Now he cannot stand alone with this creature, but his friend Yuju can. His damage is not enough to kill the beast, but with the improvement of Su Yai, he can do it. If you look closely, Their team is an excellent example from games of a combination of a tank, hell, and healer. The girl exclaimed that the application of the poison was completed. The weapon was completely saturated with poison from the monsters themselves. The boy decided that it didn't matter whether he was a beginner or not and began to approach the next monster. He asked his comrade to hold the beast for him and began to approach faster and faster. The friend agreed and exclaimed that there was no problem. Now they work as one team. The outcome of events depends on them, and they each play their roles. They kill their opponents together, and now everything depends on their team. Even if someone finds out that some newcomers like them defeated human-like beasts, they will be able to come and challenge them. The animals screamed from the fatal blows dealt to them by the team. The system told the boy that a human-like beast of the second level had been killed and he gained experience. Yuju was very surprised that their plan of action worked. Streams of sweat ran down his face. Su Ai also looked at her comrades and exclaimed that it worked. Many monsters were already lying on the ground, but one of them was alive and approached the guys again. Gian Kai thought that working as a team really helped. Another monster just came out. He began to approach them, but the boy, without fear, decided that they would defeat him too. They grabbed their guns and each performed their specific action. The guys bound the monster like chains. They began to tear his weapon apart with their strength. Su Lanlan was very surprised to see that her wristwatch was shining. Could they really kill two animals? How the three of them dealt with someone who could single-handedly kill even a much larger group. The professor replied, looking at the monitor, that it was true that Nuanuan's watch couldn't tell that she had enough strength. The pioneers on her team are also not strong enough. Gian Kai stands out from their team. His profession was not found in the system. They began to look through information about the boy, but it was not found. The star's profession was unknown. Su Lanlan said that this is simply impossible. She thought that the power to kill two human-like people and the profession was unknown was something strange. This newcomer, what profession and character could he have? Player Gian Kai picked up the second corpse of a human-like beast at a higher level. The guys fell to the ground and, spreading their arms to the side, exclaimed that they had finally managed it. Yuju said that he didn't expect brother Gian Kai to be so smart. Su Ai said that since they have enough strength to do this, they will pass the test without any problems. Yuju said that they need to go to the very end right away. But Gian Kai told the guys that there was no need to rush. There was still enough time to reach Shanxi. They should slow down a little for now. The guys looked questioningly at their friend. The boy began to explain that they know that after the test they give points. The first three in the top will be awarded equipment. The equipment received after training is very good for beginners and is simply necessary for them. Since they can kill animals, they can get points for their corpses, and with more points, they can qualify for the top three. The boy asked his comrades why not first kill monsters for points and equipment. They again clenched their fists and looked at the boy in surprise. They wondered but didn't say anything to Gian Kai. Several hours passed. It was already night outside and it was very dark in the forest. Yuju asked Gian Kai if he really thought it was worth earning points like this. Even though he asks to accept snakes, he is afraid of it. The guy was trembling with fear and holding a large branch in his hands. He thought that the first of them would die. Gian Kai asked his comrade to be more courageous. He is, after all, a master of martial arts and designed to be a tank and damage dealer. Besides, Nuanuan can always heal them. The girl was just fulfilling her duties. The boy began to explain to his comrades that dying would not be so easy. After all, they have a very strong team and they cope with the monsters together. Gian Kai was already flying up to the next monster and putting his weapon in front of him. And now, 3 snakes have already been killed and a lot of experience has been gained. The animals lay cut in half on the ground. The boy thought that on the star there are rules that the one who kills gets experience with. And since he is the only one who is capable of killing, they decided that he would be the first to gain experience. Gian Kai was confident that this was how he would ensure the safety of his team. And now, another day has passed. The system congratulated the player for achieving great experience and his level was upgraded to level 2. The multiplier effect also worked so he gets double points. The boy looked at his achievements and was happy about it. With just 1 kill of land snakes, he rose to level 2. Su Ai congratulated Gian Kai for his level up. Yuju asked if he was already feeling better. The boy smiled and answered his comrades that after the promotion, he added 20 stat points, and now, after raising the level, he has 56. The guys were very surprised by this. Has he really achieved such results? The martial artist was very surprised. Usually they give 10 points, but he got 20. Su Ayayi said that, moreover, there are 56 points at the second level. In terms of strength, he is no longer behind the fourth level, and it's just amazing. Gian Kai explained that it was all thanks to his special profession, and the rewards were doubled because of it. Well, the punishment will also double, so he can't make mistakes. Su Ayayi said that despite the fact that she did not fully understand his profession, it turns out that she is very cool. Yuju added that he is much cooler than his martial artist, and this is obvious. His system appeared in front of the boy and said that since the player had reached the second level, he was entitled to one new skill. But since he has the talent, his skill multiplier doubles. Gian Kai was very surprised and asked at the second level whether it was possible to get a new skill, and moreover, he would get two at once. The guys were very surprised that he was really capable of such a thing. This is very cool. The system confirmed that he was granted the skill card in the ghost hand. When throwing objects, the flight force increases by 20%. The effect of the action increases by 200%. The second skill learned is focusing the ghost's eye. Its viewing range increases by 50%. Energy consumption increases by 100%. The boy was very pleased because there were two new rewards for him at once. Despite the fact that he has not yet fully understood them, they seem to be very useful in his profession. Gian Kai told his comrades that he had become stronger so that he could continue to earn experience points. Several days have passed already. At the corporation, the professor and the others continued to watch what was happening. Professor Lee told Inspector Su Lanlan that 2 days had already passed, but surprisingly nothing bad had happened to her sister. The girl was very surprised and asked if he was telling the truth. She grinned and said that the new guy is quite durable and it seems his name is Gian Kai. Someone very quickly began to approach them at the corporation with an urgent announcement. The guy in uniform exclaimed that danger had been discovered in the newcomer's territory. He asks everyone to gather immediately. The corporation members immediately turned around and wondered what the danger was. The enemy country has sent its people into the newcomer zone and an invasion is expected. In Jiangcheng City, Commander-in-Chief Wei Ying asked everyone to prepare. Su Lanlan looked at the man and asked if this was true about a large-scale invasion. The Commander-in-Chief lowered his gaze and sighed, and replied that if it were a lie, he would not have come here. Su Lanlan said that they would be attacked by free riders, and this is a special profession of the enemy country. They specialize in killing newbies. Meanwhile, the guys wish the others good luck. Advanced players cannot and should not enter the beginner zone so as not to hinder their development. But the free riders of Country L are different from others. The guys had already entered dangerous territory and began to move forward. They have special skills that allow them to penetrate the territory of another state. Moreover, they use very brutal methods of killing. This is just some crazy torture. The guys who fell into their hands screamed in horror and asked not to do this. They asked, better to kill, but they would not return there for anything in the world. Su Lanlan clenched her fists and raised her eyebrows to her nose in anger. She began to worry because Nuanuan is too weak. If these animals attack, it will be very bad. The Commander-in-Chief replied that it was necessary to prepare newcomers. A large-scale attack by the stowaway army has already begun, so they must prepare for the fact that none of them will survive. Gian Kai, in turn, thought about future plans and instructions. Meanwhile, the guys were already moving through the forest thicket. It was very dark and creepy. Gian Kai heard a noise somewhere in the bushes and turned his head towards the sound. Yuju also became wary and asked his comrades what was the matter. The boy explained to his friends that there was something in the depths of the forest and headed there. Yuju asked Gian Kai why he was delaying and what he was doing and asked him to go quickly. Su Ayayi was very surprised and exclaimed, looking in front of her, that there was nothing there. But the boy focused his vision and, opening the eyes of the ghost, answered his comrades that there was a little further. He exclaimed that there was probably something there and began to quickly move through the forest to that place. He looked beyond the trees that towered right in front of them, and there was an explosion. The boy exclaimed that everything worked out and asked the guys to run forward after him. Yuju said that there was nothing there. What kind of vision did he have? The pioneer Gian Kai killed a level 2 wild boar, and the current experience points were 200. Yuju was very surprised by his keen eye. He asked how the boy noticed the wild boar in such a distance. Su Ayayi added that he also killed him. Gian Kai explained to the guys that this is not surprising and all this is thanks to new skills. The system asked if he wanted to receive the corpse of a wild boar, the carcass of a wild boar with sharp thorns, Spikes can be used for weapons. The boy, of course, clicked to agree. The current skill card in the ghost's hand increased damage. By focusing the ghost's eye, your vision has improved and you can now follow attacks. In other words, the enemy did not even notice him. Gian Kai looked at the monitor on his system. He is only 1 point short of the 3rd level. The boy took the weapon in his hands and invited the guys to kill some monster. Yuju sighed heavily and replied that he was still at the 1st level. Meanwhile, someone laughingly told their captain that the 2nd team was very lucky. The guys moved forward. A river flowed next to the thicket of the forest and they passed along it. The voice continued to say that he did not think it would take so little time. The man in armor exclaimed with a malicious smile that it was time for entertainment. Gian Kai asked these comrades who they were and clenched his fist. The guy began to take out a sharp sword and replied that they should not be afraid because they are good people. He explained that they only wanted to tear out his chest and make him bleed, or skin him alive and then feed it to animals. A group of people surrounded the guys. They found themselves around Gian Kai and his friends. It was as if they were backed into a corner. The guy exclaimed to the guys that they all had one common goal. Gian Kai heard something again and glanced to the side. He was very tense and excited. This man who was near them evoked horror and fear. He was completely dressed in chainmail. It was the smuggler captain of the 2nd team. He explained that their task would not allow newcomers to pass the test. Ai was simply shocked and told Gian Kai that she knew these people. They seemed to be free riders who specialize in killing newbies. The guys were seriously scared. The girl explained that they are all above the 3rd level, and the highest level is the 5th. The team of thugs approached the guys faster and faster, and they were too strong. Gian Kai thought about what to do next and how to resist such strong guys. He thought while looking at his opponents that there were a lot of people here, and were they all on the 5th level? Its current characteristics, at best, can compete with the 4th level, but clearly not with the 5th. And the opponents were already approaching them faster and faster. The leader gave the command to the brothers not to stand still. The boy decided that something needed to be done and began to take his weapon out of its sheath. He asked Yuju and Nuan to stay together as he needed to be separated from them. The guys agreed, but they were very worried about what their friend was up to. The leader of the opponents smiled and asked if it was only now that he decided to take action. And they are all so slow. He gave the command to his 2 boys to go after him, while they had fun with these guys. They immediately began running after their victims as quickly as possible to attack them. One of the opponents noticed that the guy was quite fast. The second exclaimed that he would not escape from them. They began to run after their victims faster and faster in order to tear them to pieces as quickly as possible. But suddenly, the opponent stopped, not understanding where their victim had gone. One of them laughed and asked if the guy decided to play with them. An evil, satisfied smile never left his face. The second said that he was very excited. As soon as they find him, they will break all his legs. When Gian Kai's sharp saber flew towards them, the guy exclaimed that he decided to fight with them. But garbage is no match for them, and he caught his weapon very deftly with one hand. While he was catching the weapon, the boy had already dropped it on his back so that his partner did not expect this blow. A powerful explosion occurred, and the man flew far back, hitting his back on the ground. His partner was very surprised and asked if everything was okay with him because he flew high up. When the guy came closer to his comrade, he saw him lying on the ground dead. He couldn't understand how this happened. Gian Kai smiled and asked if all free riders really die so easily. He exclaimed, looking at his opponents, that it seemed like there was nothing to envy. The system announced the probability of a critical hit, and it was unclear. The strength of a critical hit is also unclear. The boy couldn't understand whether his attributes at the 3rd level were only 45 units, and he already has 60. The enemy grimaced in bewilderment and asked how this was even possible. Gian Kai concentrated and, using all his abilities, began to approach his opponent. He pierced him with his weapon many times, and the enemy fell to the ground screaming. The boy realized that he had succeeded. In terms of general characteristics, it is not inferior to the 4th level, so it was possible to deal with the 3rd. He suggested escaping, but in order to attract a small part of free riders, and it would be more convenient to kill. Meanwhile, Yuju and Ai remained in their places and waited for the enemy to attack. Gian Kai thought that he had almost reached the 3rd level, so what if he kills the stowaway? The system informed the boy that he had managed to kill the stowaway. Before the victim's body dissipated, the system asked if he would like to appropriate his experience for himself. He can get up to 100 experience points, which will definitely not be superfluous to him. Gian Kai exclaimed that of course he wants to. It turns out that he can get more experience for killing free riders. And you don't even have to kill monsters. In this case, he needs all their experience points. And now the system congratulated its owner on reaching the 3rd level. Gian Kai was very happy and laughed, and exclaimed that he had finally reached the 3rd level. Now, the total attribute score is 76 points, and level 5 free riders only have 60 points. The boy approached one of the opponents and took the watch off his wrist. He decided that now he needed to return and demonstrate his strength to them. He headed towards his comrades. The guys were already waiting for him, since the danger was too close to them, and they were already approaching the girl. One of the enemies said that in front of them was a martial artist and a doctor. He didn't think they would stumble upon 2 of the best professions at once. The second guy also smiled sarcastically and said that these were good professions. He clenched his teeth and exclaimed that it was time to torture them to death. Su Ai lowered her head and asked Yuju, Kai was chased by 2 stowaways, whether he would be able to return. Meanwhile, the boy exclaimed that he would definitely succeed and was already nearby. He will never give up so easily, especially when such a girl is nearby. And when his friends and family are in danger, he will try and nothing matters to him. The enemy exclaimed, looking at his victims, that the foreplay was already over and gave the command to move forward. The commander said that it was time to step up and show his victims what they were capable of. Gian Kai, being behind them, was ready to jump out of the forest thicket. Many spikes flew towards the opponents and stuck into their heads. Su Ai was very surprised by this. The guy clenched his teeth and exclaimed that he knew that the boy would return. The opponents were very surprised, and one of them asked who was there and who had sneaked up here. He asked him to come out quickly and offered to fight him, but the enemy did not see his opponent. He thought that perhaps some new profession had appeared, and it was very interesting. Gian Kai seemed to be playing with them, deceiving them and attacking them from afar with sharp lances. One of the enemies decided that it was necessary to escape and quickly took off running. The girl exclaimed, looking at the enemy, that the stowaway was running away, but he was asked how he wanted to leave after hurting his brother. The boy's green eye was already looking right through his opponent. Gian Kai exclaimed, looking menacingly at the enemy, that his life belonged only to him. He directed all his strength against the enemy and pierced him with a sharp spear. The guy began to scream in pain and fell to one knee. All the enemies were scattered around the perimeter of the fallen, face down and arms outstretched to the sides. Gian Kai appeared from behind the trees and said that the free riders were finished. He asked if Yuan was okay. The girl was glad that the boy had returned and did not notice that he was seriously injured. She came closer to him and said that she could not help him. Yuju was happy that Gian Kai had returned and said that he would not go further with them. He was very badly wounded and falling to the ground. He exclaimed that he could no longer do it. Yuju told his comrades that his adventures with them were his best memories. And now he asks to take his share. The guy asked to try hard to pass the test. The girl began to cry tearfully as she felt sorry for brother Yuju. Was there really nothing she could do? Gian Kai addressed the boy by name and looked at him with sadness in his eyes. He approached his comrade and asked if he could get down to business and not lie here and sigh. He explained that he deliberately did not kill the stowaways so that someone could replenish their experience and recover. Su Ai thought that the Devil Star could be restored by taking experience from another player. Yuju exclaimed that in this case he was saved. Gian Kai said that he thought so, that he was faking it. In any case, these stowaways had no intention of letting him live. Therefore, he also asks not to feel sorry for them under any circumstances. He wished them a good future reincarnation. One of the opponents continued to lie on the ground and was wished good luck, Gian Kai asked. Laughing, "Isn't this cool and he will become their donor?" He decided to take advantage of his voluntary sacrifice. At the same time, the Department for the Transportation of Free Riders of the City of L, a research institute, the guys shouted that they were scared and that some newcomer had destroyed them all. They are too cruel to the guys and took away all the experience points. What else is this, and how could this happen? City leaders L were shocked that free riders could suffer so much. Is it possible that a new profession has appeared there that can resist free riders? At the same time in the Kingdom of the Gods, the professor, looking at the monitor, exclaimed that things were bad. Judging by the latest information, the Yuan team has encountered free riders. Su Lanlan was very surprised and scared. Did something really happen to her? The commander-in-chief said that not a single newcomer had ever managed to escape from a free rider and asked her to prepare for death. Meanwhile, the professor looked again at the monitor and exclaimed that he didn't think so. He continued to look at the monitor and reported that Su Ai did not die during the battle with the stowaways. On the contrary, she increased her level. The commander-in-chief was very surprised, and the girl too. He asked how this could be, how they managed to increase their level when fighting with free riders, or the stowaways helped them kill the monsters. Professor Lee replied that no, and Yuan could not reach a new level so quickly by killing a free rider. The guy explained to those sitting next to her that she had risen 2 levels. He asked his comrades if they thought she could have killed the stowaway. The guys were even more surprised. The commander-in-chief dropped a cup of water directly on the floor. He asked to quickly show him the details of Su Ai's team. He was simply shocked by what was happening. The guys immediately began to reveal the boy's testimony and presented it to the commander. In front of him was Gian Kai. With an unknown level and unknown profession, Su Ai had the 3rd level and the profession of a healer. Yuju also has a 3rd level and profession as a martial artist. The commander-in-chief was very surprised because without killing the free riders, they would not have been able to rise 2 levels in such a short time. Su Lanlin asked if this was possible. Yuan doesn't have any fighting abilities. Maybe it was that guy Gian Kai who dealt with all the free riders. Well, that's very strange. The commander-in-chief said that his intuition shows that this was his doing, and why his indicators were not determined. Professor Lee reported that he had found information on this matter. All travelers are given a special watch to determine information. But Gian Kai's are the oldest. The server of this model stopped being serviced more than 10 years ago, and they are not connected to the internet. Therefore, his information is not available to them. The girl has thought about it over the years. Does he really use an antique watch? The commander-in-chief became very interested, and he wanted to check this information, get it out of the ground. He asked the guys to collect real information about Gian Kai's performance for him. He wanted to see its characteristics. Yuju stood in front of the monitor and he exclaimed that this was very cool. He did not think that he would restore the entire volume of life. Su Ai was also very happy. The guy said that he had also acquired the professional skill of stomping the ground. It can hit enemies that are nearby. The girl began to examine her abilities. She explained that she also received a new skill, namely the healer's benevolence, and now her abilities would improve. Gian Kai smiled contentedly and said that they have decent skills for a healer and martial artist. Yuju told the boy that he was now 1 level higher. Maybe now he too will be able to fight on equal terms as free riders. Gian Kai smiled back and said that, in fact, he also raised his level. The guys were very surprised by this indicator. Yuju grabbed his head and asked when he managed to reach the 4th level, because he had just reached the 2nd. Su Ai also noticed that he also had 96 attribute points, and such indicators were equivalent to the 8th level. Gian Kai explained that when he killed 2 stowaways, he was given the 3rd level, and when he returned here and killed 5 more who were able to reach the 4th level, it turns out he's better than him again. Yuju exclaimed that he was very annoyed by this. Meanwhile, the girl approached the boy and asked him what they would do next. Gian Kai replied that he heard their captain say that they belong to the 2nd group of stowaways, which means that there is also a 1st group that they will kill. And then half a day passed. Somewhere in the forest in the area of the newcomers, there was a noise. The guy laughed and asked where these things came from. I wonder how weak the guys from the 2nd team were that they were torn apart so quickly. The guys continued to laugh, and one of them said that it was high time to change them. This was the 1st squad of level 5 stowaways. The captain of the 1st squad of level 5 stowaways asked them to stop relaxing. The authorities said that the matter was serious and that it was necessary to behave accordingly. In any case, newbies are limited to level 5, so they shouldn't have too much trouble dealing with them. Yuju asked his comrade if he was confident that he could fight 9 level 5 stowaways. Gian Kai asked. Not to worry, because even if he couldn't kill them, he would definitely be able to protect them. Besides, if they don't try to kill them, they will kill other newcomers. Therefore, the boy exclaimed to his comrades that they needed to strike first. The team captain asked his guys to be careful because someone was approaching them. The guy laughed in response and exclaimed that this was just a 4th level beginner. But he raised his level quite quickly, and it must have been he who defeated the 2nd squad. The capital noticed that this was quite good and gave the command to his guys to attack. Everyone stay on alert and don't dare lose to him. Gian Kai thought that this was bad, and it turns out that they were also maintaining the system. According to their original plan, he was supposed to lure the enemy and then slowly get rid of them one by one. It was necessary to catch the stowaways one by one, but this detachment is too large, so it won't be easy. Now the main thing for them is to save themselves, and if possible, kill a few stowaways. The problem isn't that they don't have countermeasures, they just didn't come up with a plan B. The boy was already approaching his opponents and thought that if he wanted to get rid of everyone at once, it would be difficult. He decided that he would have to put in a lot of effort and began to approach his opponents. Gian Kai grabbed his weapon in the form of a sharp lance, and it glowed with bright turquoise rays. One of the opponents was very surprised and asked the second what this guy was doing. The guy couldn't understand where he was going. Is he really so scared that he can't decide which way to run away? The enemy targeted Gian Kai. He was already approaching him trying to strike, but the boy coughed a little and flew to the side, dodging the blow. He realized that he was not close enough yet. He asked if he was still running away. The opponents grabbed very sharp, long knives, and one of them gave the command to remove the skin from him. The boy began to fly up to his opponents, but again he was not close enough. He somersaulted around the guys and hit one of them very hard in the side. The leader could not understand what was going on. He looked at the fight and was very surprised what was happening there. They have the 5th level, but he only has the 4th. And how can he withstand their blows and their powerful attacks? One of the guys told his captain that something was wrong. They had too little time to determine its characteristics, but as soon as he analyzed it with the help of a high-tech watch, he discovered that all of its attributes were beyond their power to discern. But at least the guy's agility is about 30 points, and this is a lot for him. The captain was even more shocked and surprised that the agility points were 30. He must have made a mistake. The guy started shouting that at his 5th level he had less than 20 points. How did he get so many? The guys could not understand how they could even defeat their opponent. The captain clenched his fists, not understanding what was happening. But the clock could not be wrong. If this guy really has such high agility, then who else is chasing him? The captain began shouting to his boys that everything was bad. They were attacking very cleverly. You need to run away as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the rest of the opponents were very surprised and then finally understood something. Gian Kai appeared behind them and exclaimed that he fooled them quite easily. He began to approach the remaining enemies with another attack and deal with them. The boy explained to the opponents that it was too late for them to escape and a powerful explosion occurred near them. A bright yellow flame rose straight to the heavens. The guys did not have time to repel the attack. They fell to the ground, breaking stones with their backs that scattered to the sides. Gian Kai decided that Yuju had done a good job, and now the rest should be left to him. He began to approach his opponents and attack them with bright blue lightning. All they had time to do was fly apart in different directions and fall to the ground. Gian Kai decided what he would do. Yuju exclaimed that he had destroyed 9 level 5 representatives and could not understand what was wrong with this kid. Gian Kai looked at the monitor and exclaimed that he had finally reached the 5th level. For each killed traveler above 1 level, the amount of experience gained doubles. It turns out that he received 400 units from each holder of the 5th level. Su Ai was very surprised and said that she heard that this is the limit that can be reached in the beginner zone. Gian Kai replied that this was nothing, and they had just lost a lot of experience. He still has survivors, so he needs to hurry. The comrade asked the boy what they would do next. Gian Kai replied that he used to need to kill monsters to gain experience points. Now this need has disappeared, so it will simply help them. Once they have collected enough points, they will head to the finish line. The guys were very happy about this, and Yuju said that it was his turn to become strong. The boy gave the command to his guys to be careful because on the way to the finish line, they need to score as many points as possible. Well, the closer they get to the finish line, the more ferocious the monsters become. Even in the beginner zone, there are bosses and you need to be careful. The guys immediately agreed with their savior, but suddenly they heard some noise. It was not just a noise, but a loud roar of monsters. A huge monster appeared in front of them, which opened its terrible fanged mouth. They approached them as quickly as possible, but before they could reach them, they found themselves on the ground. Su Ai, peeking out from behind the bushes, said that this was the corpse of an animal. He has a lot of bite marks on him and someone bit him to death. Gian Kai began to use his talent of focusing the ghost's eye. He focused on his vision and began to peer very far into the distance. The boy said that he had just seen a golden light in the distance. Don't they think that this golden creature could have killed the monster? The girl asked what golden creature the boy was talking about and began to peer ahead. There really was a lot of bright yellow fire. It was golden in color. This light was seen by Gian Kai from afar with his amazing focused vision. Yuju asked what kind of creature this was. This creature can attack them too. A bright yellow light began to approach them in the form of a huge ball flying very quickly. This light, like bright long lightning bolts, began to hit either the girl or the boy. They realized that this color is the golden essence. This thing was following them. Yuju asked Gian Kai to be careful. He said that this creature is very dangerous and you need to be on your guard. They were already holding their wounds with their hands. The boy stood in front of the bright golden rays and put his hand in front of him. The guys could not understand what he was doing and their eyes grew several times larger. Gian Kai caught some animal in his hands and tried to hold it with one hand while looking at it. The guys were shocked when they saw a small mouse or hamster in his hand. Yuju asked how he caught it so quickly. The girl also noticed that he was holding it in his hands. Gian Kai asked the guys if they thought this thing was fast. And isn't this a simple mouse? The hamster began to squeak and call the boy names. He asked who he was and said that he would regret it. Gian Kai noticed that the mouse seemed to be too offended, but the animal began to escape from his hands. His gaze changed and became filled with gold. The mouse began to grow and tear itself out of the boy's hands. Very long, bright golden rays began to emanate from it and were directed towards Gian Kai. Yuju grabbed his head with his hands and asked the boy why he let him go. He was even able to kill the monster himself. Gian Kai did not let him go. Holding him tightly in his hands, he looked him straight in the eye. The boy explained that everything was fine and that he was too slow for him. The hamster continued to squeak louder and louder. The boy began to focus the ghost's eyes plus the agility attribute, and in a second he grabbed it 10 times already. The guys started sweating and couldn't understand how Gian Kai was so fast. They thought it was very cool, and a few minutes passed. The mouse still lost and, completely exhausted, fell into the boy's palm. Gian Kai smiled and said that it looks like the mouse has nowhere else to run. Yuju asked his comrade what kind of speed he had. The boy replied that he did not know whether the mouse would be useful during battles, but a free assistant would not be superfluous. He told the girl that she had almost reached the 4th level and asked her to quickly find the corpses and then take the remaining experience from them in order to reach the 5th level at the end of the test. Su Ayai replied that it was good and noticed that the mouse was very cute. Yuju was upset and thought that he felt like he was some kind of trash and not a martial artist. It was already night outside and the full moon illuminated everything around the mountains and green forests. A man in a robe laughed and exclaimed that he had already arrived. He grabbed the tree with one hand and said that finally, after so many days, he finally managed to reach the rookie zone. The city of Shenyao stretched out in front of us. It was a vast and bright city. The guys with spears in their hands and wearing chainmail congratulated the newcomer on passing the test. Now he can officially become a Devil Star Traveler. In front of them was Xiao Tao, who was accompanying the newcomers. He explained that unfortunately the guy did not come first, but the rating is not so important. The passage itself is what is important. The guy answered his captain that he was indeed not the first, but what made him think that he was trying to come running? The rest of the guys were surprised. The rating is calculated by points and he has a lot of killed monsters. But can he exchange them for points? Was it really possible for a newcomer to kill so many monsters? The guy laughed and replied that all this was nonsense. He is the second master of the Huang family. He is the future head of the guild and underwent special training before coming here. The second guild master of the Huang family was named Huang Wei. One of the warriors asked if it was the Huang family who belonged to the Xuanyu Guild. The second one said that the Xuanyu Guild is one of the top 10 in Shenyao City. He's not surprised he's so capable. Xiao Tao congratulated, despite the fact that he is not the very first in terms of points. In terms of power, he will definitely be among the top 10 in Shenyao City. Huang Wei laughed and said that Huang Wei will definitely become great. Winning first place is just the first step. He put his hands out to the sides and squeezing them, said that if they give him a little more time, the whole Devil Star will go to his feet. Meanwhile, somewhere in the depths of the newcomer's zone, wide and tall trees stretched, whoosh. Gian Kai said to his guys that it was very strange because half a day had already passed, but not a single monster had been met. The boy tried to understand what was going on. Isn't it a mouse that's scaring them away? Su Ayai asked if this is possible because he is so cute. Before she had time to finish speaking, someone not far from them growled very menacingly. They glanced at the paws with huge, long, and sharp claws that were right in front of them. Twilight wolves were approaching them, and there were a lot of them. A whole pack. The wolves' paws glowed with a bright blue light, and their claws were very long and sharp. The animals began to slowly approach their victims, baring their teeth and growling loudly. The boss of the rookie zone of Shenyao City, the Twilight Wolf King, was preparing to attack. Gian Kai put out his weapon and said that this is the boss of the beginner zone. the Twilight Wolf King. He explained to the guys that they had entered the boss's territory and were surrounded by wolves. Yuju said that he heard that the Twilight Wolf King is the most powerful being in the rookie zone, which no one has yet managed to kill. He asked the boy what they would do. Gian Kai also noticed that there were too many wolves and he himself could escape, but his comrade could not. In this case, he will fight to the death. He told his comrades that they could not escape and could only break through. The boss of the wolves asked his pack to run faster and kill the king. The guys were preparing to defend against attack. Yuju prepared to attack and glowed with a bright golden light emitting hot energy. A bright golden column of light spread around, and the boy began to approach his opponents. Yellow lightning scattered around as they approached the wolves. It was just a great skill. The guy asked Nuanuan to take advantage of his technique. Gian Kai decided that now it was his turn and began to focus the ghost's eyes. He began to use the card in the ghost's hand. The boy released a sharp metal spear from his hand, which flew towards the boss. The wolf tried to dodge and his eyes sparkled with a bright red light, and his fangs glowed with white needles sharp like knives. The guys were very scared for their comrade and for themselves, and streams of sweat flowed down their faces. Gian Kai was seriously scared and asked why the defense could not be broken through. The wolf was already approaching faster and faster towards the guys, and his eyes burned with anger and a thirst for revenge. They were already close to their opponents, and the girl exclaimed that things were pretty bad. The Wolf King ordered his companions to attack them. The guys tried to defend themselves. Yuju exclaimed that they could not attack the Wolf King, and they needed to come up with something else. Gian Kai began to think frantically and decided that the king's defense was too strong and they surrounded him. Meanwhile, the little mouse began to wake up after hearing some noise not far from him. As the wolves approached his master, he finally woke up and wondered. The mouse could not understand what was happening and glanced at the evil wolves. The mouse realized by scanning the pack of wolves with his eyes that there was a criminal in front of him. He suddenly began to grow and began to use his strength to the maximum. It glowed with a golden bright light. The mouse directed bright golden rays in the form of fire towards his opponents. He squealed very loudly, and bright rays pierced the bodies of the wolves, spewing out a conflagration. Gian Kai was very surprised watching his mouse. How could she bite through the Wolf King? The boy again began to use the focusing of the ghost's eyes, and they glowed with a bright green light. When the boy looked closely, he saw that the mouse was able to injure the wolf. This is simply wonderful, and thanks to the mouse, his defense is broken. All that remains is to apply a little pressure on the wound, and then the Wolf King will lose if he does this as soon as possible. Gian Kai began to approach the Wolf King very quickly. He started screaming in pain, and the mouse was glad that he could help. The boy noticed that he almost succeeded. If he uses his focus to strike, he might be able to finish off this big, huge wolf boss. The boy began to use the 200th discharge, and many bright turquoise lightning flew towards the healthy monster. Su Ayai covered herself with her hands from such a powerful blow from the boy. She tried to take a peek at what Gian Kai was doing. The girl was very surprised by such a powerful blow from their comrade. Yuju was also shocked that he killed the Twilight Wolf King, but the boy looked somewhere into the distance. The system congratulated him, the traveler Gian Kai, on his victory over the boss of the beginner zone, the king of the Twilight Wolves. He thought their battle would last a very long time. It turns out that we managed to defeat him with the 200th critical hit. Additionally, this is the first time he has been able to recreate a critical hit of such power. The guys asked the boy to look at a pack of wolves. It looks like the wolves are leaving. The boy asked his guys if they could still fight. The comrades exclaimed that they could. Gian Kai said that since the king is no longer there, the remaining wolves are just pathetic insects. Yuju agreed with him but said that they barely survived this fight. The boy gave the command to his boys not to let them go alive. And so a mortal battle ensued. The wolves scattered from the powerful blows of the guys. Yuju ran towards danger and Su Ayai also used all her abilities. A lot of bright yellow light spread around in the form of a hot conflagration. The guys scattered all the wolves, killing every last one and laughing and exclaiming that they were finished. Yuju, looking at the corpses of the wolves, said that he did not expect that they would be able to defeat the boss of the rookie zone. Su Ayai exclaimed that they were really very cool. Gian Kai asked the guys to get ready to take the glasses. Yuju asked him what they would do next. The boy explained that they had a lot of points left, so they had to go to the finish line. Yuju laughed and exclaimed that this territory of Shenyao City was located on the Devil Star. It was very lively here. Shenyao City is the largest recreation center in the entire Devil Star. The girl noticed that the boy's mouse was running away, but he began to calm her down and said that everything was fine and he was absolutely free. If fate brings them together again, he won't mind. In front of us is the reception hall after the test in the beginner's area. The guy congratulated Gian Kai and the guys on passing the other's test and said that his name is Xia Tao. He is a guide for all beginners. Gian Kai smiled back and asked the captain if he could see the rating. The guy replied that of course he could. Huang Wei saw him and laughed and exclaimed that this was a big coincidence. Who would have thought that his employee would also take part in the test? He said that he could show him the rating himself. The boy also glanced at Huang Wei and thought that he did not expect to see him here. The guy began to show the table and exclaimed that he was the first. But they also took first place, albeit from the end, and they laughed even louder. The guys behind him also laughed and asked to look at this rabble. As soon as the conscience was enough to come, they laughed and said that in front of them was complete garbage. Gian Kai thought that in order to save up for his trip to Devil Star, his sister worked in Huang Wei's house. This scoundrel often pestered her. In addition, he often beat him too. Yuju could not resist that Huang Wei was mocking his friend and clenched his fists and exclaimed that he would now wash his mouth with soap. Gian Kai stopped his comrade and said that everything was in order. The boy wanted to inform him that the rating would be changed in the near future. He explained to everyone else that the three of them would definitely become leaders. But the guys started laughing loudly at them. Huang Wei asked what kind of impudence this is, because they are already the first from the end. What else is needed? He told the captain that he thought these guys had gone crazy, and it was time to go see a psychologist. Gian Kai asked his guys not to react to them. The girl smiled sweetly and lowered her head down and answered her friend that they would do so. Yuju pointed to his watch and laughed and said that everything would change soon. They really decided to change everything and stood with their backs to each other, with their arms folded on their chests. When the table of their achievements appeared, the guys immediately opened their mouths, shocked by what was happening. Huang Wei was very surprised, and beads of sweat began to flow down his face. He was shocked by how many monsters they killed. Not only simple monsters, but also Twilight Wolves, and this simply cannot be. They even killed the king of the Twilight Wolves, but the rivals' mouths opened wider and wider. Huang Wei said that it was funny and how they even dealt with the king of the Twilight Wolves. Is this possible? Gian Kai smiled back and told him to believe it or not. It is his right. But the rating is an indicator of everything. The guys asked the others to watch quickly. The rating was updated. It turns out that all this was true. Huang Wei became very angry and asked how this could be. Did they really make it to the top 3? Gian Kai approached his opponents and asked if they thought that was all. The boy told the captain that they deserved a reward for being free riders. He asked if it was possible to convert everything into points. The guys were shocked and noticed the watches of the free riders of the country L. Their surprise simply knew no bounds. Huang Wei started laughing again and exclaimed that they were lying. How the newcomers could kill the free riders and they are just liars. He spread his arms to the sides and asked where the free riders came from at the competition. Has anyone seen them? The guys exclaimed that no one had seen them. Then the guy turned to the gentleman and said that everyone was saying that they had not seen any free riders, so they were lying. He advises that their points be cancelled and checked to the fullest extent possible. The guy continued to ask the captain to look into everything and take everything more seriously. Then be sure to punish them. Suddenly, someone appeared behind them and said that free riders had indeed appeared, but there was simply no time to report it. In front of them was the deputy commander-in-chief of the Jiangchong City military region, Lu Jun. He explained that he was also very surprised when he heard about them. Therefore, he proposes to reward Gian Kai and his comrades for their dedication. Huang Wei was shocked and said that this was Lu Jun, the deputy commander-in-chief. It turns out that they actually killed the stowaways. Lu Jun approached the boy and said that in order to somehow reward him, it was decided to increase his reward in the form of equipment. Initially, the award for second and third place was increased from B to A. But now, regarding the first place, the award has been upgraded to S level. Gian Kai did not expect such an award and was very surprised. His comrades asked if this was true. The girl exclaimed that this was very cool. And Gian Kai thanked the deputy commander-in-chief. The rivals grabbed their heads with their hands, surprised at such a huge reward. Is there such equipment at all? Gian Kai's Devil Star class. The boy said that currently the Devil Star equipment is divided into categories from F to S, where F is the lowest quality of equipment and S is accordingly the best. As a rule, Equipment B and C are considered quite good. Equipment of ranks A and S are considered rarer. They are the dreams of every traveler. Huang Wei, listening to this, was very angry and gritting his teeth, harbored a grudge against his opponent. He thought about how Gian Kai not only removed him from the leadership position, but also received great equipment. The guy exclaimed that this was unfair and that something was definitely wrong here. Gian Kai's family is lower class, and how can he compete with him? The boy approached Huang Wei and asked him if this was important in this situation. He warns the guy not to dare insult his family. The captain asked Huang Wei not to do anything stupid, but the guy began to approach the enemy and, taking out his sword, asked if he wanted to say that he was mistaken. After all, they are all beggars, is he right? His brother is sick, and his sister is a cleaner, and he was crawling on his feet, but today he decided to change everything. Gian Kai listened to everything attentively and then changed his gaze, unable to hold back his grudge against his family. Huang Wei said that he himself knows that his sister is still working in his house, so he should not dare to anger him, or one day he will get to her. The boy got very angry and, pulling out his weapon, began to approach the enemy. He quickly appeared next to him and wounded Huang Wei with a sword directly in the chest. The guys were scared and couldn't understand what had just happened. They opened their mouths in surprise. Su Aiyai opened her eyes wide and called out to her comrade. They were very surprised by what the boy had just done. The deputy commander-in-chief glanced at Gian Kai and realized that he had defeated Huang Wei. One of the guys shouted that Huang Wei came from the Huang family, and it was one of the top 10 best guilds in the country. How could he even have the courage to do this? Huang Wei, holding his hand on the wound, asked Gian Kai how dare he harm him. Does he know what will happen to him now? The boy laughed back at him and exclaimed that he was the first to insult his family. Does he think that he doesn't understand who he is? Huang Wei stood on one knee and glanced towards his opponent. Gian Kai said as he approached him that family is the most important thing in his life. The boys listened carefully to the boy's words. The captain and deputy commander-in-chief froze in anticipation. Gian Kai approached the enemy and said that no matter who insults his family, but in any case, he will kill anyone who does it. Huang Wei put his hand forward and asked the boy to wait. But before he could finish speaking, the enemy attacked him. The guy began to scream and, amazed, fell straight on his back. Scarlet drops of blood began to splash from his mouth. The system reported that Gian Kai kills the first-level traveler Huang Wei, thereby earning 6 experience points. The system asked if he wanted to pick them up. Gian Kai sighed and said that he only had 6 experience points. Is his family really that poor? The guys got very angry and started shouting how dare he kill the heir of the Huang family. Even though he is still alive in reality, the Huang family's anger will not go away. It was a very serious and courageous decision. The deputy commander-in-chief approached Gian Kai. He thought that this guy does not lose his cool and he is an amazing person. He approached Mr. Gian Kai and said that he killed Huang Wei in self-defense, so he proposes to close the matter. He told Gian Kai that the 3 of them should follow him and he would lead them to the rewards. The guys immediately thanked Lu Jun. His comrades told their friend that he was great and it was simply amazing. Li Jian explained that they could now look at their equipment and open it as soon as possible. The boy thanked the deputy commander-in-chief and went to his chest. Su Aiyai also opened her chest and was very happy when she saw the Jade of Life, the equipment that every healer dreams of at first. Li Jian said that Life Jade adds 15 points to physique and spirit, which has a very positive effect on the healing process. Yuju clenched his fist and exclaimed that his armor was very nice. The guy asked the others to look at him. Li Jian clapped his hands and said that the Black Rhinoceros armor increased the defense by 16 points, and the damage received was reduced by 16%. The equipment is perfect for both attack and defense. The guy exclaimed that this was just for him. Su Aiyai clapped her hands and clasped her hands near her chest and asked Gian Kai to see what he had. The boy approached his chest and began to open it. He turned on his X-ray vision. This chest contained unidentified equipment, and it was necessary to check what was inside. The chest contained many very sharp blades made of strong metal. They glowed, emitting golden light. The guy said that this equipment probably requires a special certificate. Yuju exclaimed that since it looks like it is very cool. Li Jian said that very good equipment usually requires a certificate. He explained to the boy that he had them so he could help him. The guy was surprised that the blade was responsible for critical damage. The attack power of a simple beginner is usually low, so the critical damage of S rank does not seem to be as good as that of A rank equipment. Wenju told the gentleman that apparently he was unlucky. The girl asked Mr. Lee if Gian Kai could change his equipment. The man explained that it was very troublesome, but he could try to do something. Gian Kai asked to leave everything as it is and not change anything. He said that everything suits him. He came closer to his equipment and, looking at it, was sure that there was no need to change anything. The boy thought to himself that this equipment was very good and couldn't be better. Now his damage will be not 2, but 200 times more powerful. 200 times critical damage. After such critical damage, even the king of the Twilight Wolves will fall in one blow. It's a pity that his normal critical strike is not particularly high. So it won't be easy, 10 critical damage per minute and critical damage in 10 days. But each use of 9 pursuit blades will increase speed by at least 10%. But after several hits, the speed and power of a critical hit will be increased by 90%. The boy raised the blade as high as possible and realized that this was an ideal item for a gambler. Li Jian said, "It's very good if he likes it." And now they can return to Earth, only he wants to warn Gian Kai that someone may be looking. The man explained that he had better be careful, so he would walk him home. And here in front of us is the Earth, namely the Kingdom of the Gods, one of the poor areas of Zhangchong City. Gian Kai didn't expect the test to go so smoothly. I wonder what my brother and the others will say. The boy was riding along the road on his electric bicycle and heard something not far from him. He thought about where such expensive cars came from. Is someone really going to develop the area? He began to look at the cars and was very surprised by this. The boy was holding a phone in his hands. Gian Kai began to climb up to his floor and approach the door. He opened the door and went inside. The boy exclaimed that he was back and asked them to guess who passed the rookie test. But before he could enter the apartment, a man sitting on a chair appeared in his eyes. There were many more people next to him. He asked who it was that came back and said that they say he passed the rookie test. This man's name was Huang Da. Gian Kai was very surprised when he saw him. He asked Brother Huang Wei what he needed. But before he could finish speaking, someone's ominous hand appeared behind him and hit him on the back of the head. There was a very strong push and several guys knocked the guy to his knees. They began to push him so that the boy would quickly kneel in front of this man. The guy held a heavy bat on his shoulder and turned to the boy. He asked if Gian Kai knew that little brother had to undergo treatment from a psychiatrist after he killed him in the Devil Star. The man explained that no one had ever dared to do this to their Huang family. He exclaimed that the boy had disgraced his brother Huang Wei and he will do the same to him. Huang Da raised his heavy bat over the boy's head and began to lower it directly onto his head. Gian Kai became seriously angry and his eyes glowed bright green. With lightning speed, he tore his hands away from the hands of the man's 2 huge bodyguards. The guys immediately fell back onto the hard floor and the man also flew to the side. He started screaming and asked who came here to save this boy. A girl appeared on the threshold and she told Gian Kai that he was told to be more careful when returning home. The commander-in-chief stood nearby and asked why he ignored the warning. Su Lan showed a piece of paper and exclaimed, telling the guys not to move. She explained that the military was already here. The man was very surprised that the commander-in-chief of the city military region, Wei Ying, appeared in front of him. He asked why this man was here. Wei Ying replied that he came for Gian Kai. They shouldn't have touched him. He explained that he was the commander-in-chief of the corporation, and he asked not to harm this boy. Gian Kai cast a surprised glance at the man from under his brows. He could not understand what was happening and why the commander-in-chief came to save him. The guys stood next to the boy, and he waited for an explanation of why they came here. Wei Ying asked the boy not to be nervous and said that they came for a reason. In the rookie trial, he, Yuju, and Nuan performed well. Little did he know that after he left they were invited to military service. They came to invite him too. They want to invite him as a representative of a new profession. Gian Kai gave him a questioning look. Su Lan asked Gian Kai if he knew what the emergence of a new profession meant. Currently, there are many professions for travelers, but they can be changed as soon as a person reaches level 20th. Whenever a profession changes, the attributes and skills also change. Some travelers become stronger, while others become weaker. In the present, current professions are not so necessary, so the military prefer to change them by mastering new ones. His profession is considered new. The girl tried to explain this to the boy. He listened carefully, thinking about it. The girl came closer and asked the boy if he wanted to join them. She asked not to worry, they were not going to rush things. Before arriving, they researched information about him and his family, and she apologized for this. She explained that according to their information, his brother was seriously ill. If he agrees to join them, they will definitely protect his family and cover all his brother's medical expenses. Gian Kai thought about this because he really doesn't have enough money to help his family. The commander-in-chief asked the boy what he thought about this. After all, he went to the Devil Star in order to cover expenses. If he agrees, then he asks to come to them the day after tomorrow. Su Lanlan told the boy that he could find her. He looked at their backs and thought, but Gian Kai called the commander-in-chief and Su Lanlan and apologized and refused them. The girl got very angry and asked why. Wei Ying also turned around, waiting for an answer. Gian Kai explained that he knows that everyone dreams of joining them, especially those with the profession of warrior and healer who can help them. But he is different, and his profession is also different. He asked if they remembered when the profession of drunkard appeared. All the military men were passionate about her. I try to attract such people to me. The military helped drunks in everything, which is why alcohol began to be freely sold and distributed. And when the military discovered that drunkenness did not bring the expected effect, the drunkards were simply thrown out. The boy asked if he was telling a lie now and looked at the guys. If you changed your profession to become a drunkard, this is even worse than a beggar. As for him, this time the Huang family took him by surprise, and he did not think that they would strike so soon. They will leave the Huang family's lands as soon as possible, and he thanked them for the help provided. The boy explained that the three of them had lived together for more than 10 years, so we have long been accustomed to taking fate into our own hands and not shifting responsibility to others. Su Lanlan exclaimed that humanity is now experiencing the end of the world. His profession can greatly help the world. Humanity needs him more than ever before, and why does he even have such bad thoughts about them? The boy looked at the girl again and apologized and said that he just wanted to protect his family and that's all. Su Lanlan wanted to object, but the commander-in-chief stopped him and asked him not to interfere, as he understood what the guy wanted to say. Habits developed over 10 years are difficult to change in a few days, but he himself understands that his brother does not have much time. In the future, he will not be able to fight alone, so why not make a bet? Over the next month, the military will continue to protect his family from the attacks of the Huang family. If he can save up for his brother's surgery this month, then let him think that they accept his independence and will no longer interfere. And if he doesn't have time to save up, the military will cover all medical expenses, but he will have to join them. The man asked if this option would suit him. Gian Kai thought for a while. After a short pause, he looked at the commander-in-chief and said that he agreed. He thought to himself that he needed to return to the Devil Star as quickly as possible in order to save up for treatment. He left a note that he passed the test but was forced to return to the Devil Star again. The boy thought that while the family was in danger from the Huang clan, he could not leave them in such a place and needed to move to a more prosperous area. He will have to try very hard to earn all the necessary amount that he needs. And here before us is the Star of the Devil, namely, the City of the Gods. Gian Kai thought that now he could officially begin his journey. Since he has changed his clothes, he can go to work now. But first, you need to join the guild. The boy was walking down the street and his attention was drawn to the sign above his head. Since the monsters on the Devil Star are very strong, there is no point in fighting alone, so all newcomers must join a guild. The guild is a large organization of travelers. This is where you can create a team so that you can fight monsters and level up. He decided to see where he could join. Gian Kai opened the door and said hello that he wanted to join the guild. The administrator appeared in front of him and changed and asked if he was Gian Kai. He is currently prohibited from joining the guild. The boy asked why. The girl then explained that the Huang family had blacklisted him. Therefore, he can only fight alone. It was a blow to his heart. On the outskirts of the safe zone, selection took place. Many participants were on the site and awaited their fate. Gian Kai was upset and thought that now no guild would accept him. Will his adventure end before it even begins? The girl appeared behind him again and asked if he had already decided where to go. She explained that she was a fortune teller and could help determine the zone. The cost of one fortune teller was 100 coins. The girl's profession was a fortune teller and her level was 29. The boy looked at her carefully and thought, after which he turned around and apologetically explained that he did not believe in it. But the girl asked him to wait and not leave. For him, fortune telling will cost 30 coins, or it will be completely free. He may consider this a reward, Gian Kai exclaimed, that free suits him. Now he is not so adamant. The girl noticed that he fell for the freebie and called him a parasite, so she decided to try it. The fortune teller explained that he was now in a crisis. She invited him to go to the ruler's valley. It was a green, beautiful valley with a golden circle drawn on the ground. Gian Kai decided that this was very dangerous. But in the safe zone, no one can harm his physical body, so he is safe there. He fell into a plane of ash. Currently, newcomers usually earn experience in the ash plane, where players from levels 1 to 10 gather, but there is a small chance that the Huang family will send someone here to kill him. The next one was a mountain pass. Travelers from the 15th level usually go to the pass. If they go there now, they will die. As for the Ruler's Valley, it is designed for level 10 travelers. With his current strength, it is unlikely that he will be able to withstand the monsters living in those places. He thinks that the Huang family won't even think about him going there. The Ruler's Valley will be his starting point. Since he is not allowed to join the guild, then he will work on his own. Gian Kai thanked the girl and began to run away. But she noticed that he went the wrong way. She was talking about the team. At least he knows what kind of place this is and it could destroy him. But the girl thought that she didn't care, and it was none of her business. You need to get out before a negative review arrives. And now, the Valley of the Ruler spreads out before us. High rocks rose as if to the sky and a beautiful waterfall flowed down the stones. The boy began to move deeper and deeper towards these mountain slopes through the forest thickets. Suddenly he heard some menacing roar behind him and turned around sharply. Before him was the huge fanged mouth of a creepy, incredibly large gorilla. There was a battle between warriors and huge, powerful monkeys, which were several times larger than people. The guys asked their comrades to hold on and fight off the evil monsters. This monster was a level 11 giant monkey. If they try, they can defeat him. The commander gave the command to make more efforts. The huge monster was already approaching them. Gian Kai realized that this was a team battle of travelers, and it was quite lively. And the monsters in the valley look strong. He doesn't know if he can handle them himself. Suddenly, many huge evil monkey monsters appeared behind him. The boy fell on one knee and, defending himself from them, asked why they had come. He just thought about them, but such coincidences don't happen and it's very strange. The monsters began to approach him faster and faster. These were giant monkeys of the 12th and 13th levels. A team of celestial swordsmen kills a level 11 giant monkey. They rejoiced at the victory and called themselves very cool. One of the warriors approached the captain and said that being at the 10th level, they were able to defeat the monkey giant of the 11th level without losses. They can even break records. The guy smiled slightly and replied that it was because they had a very cool captain. The guys turned around at the menacing screams and roars of a new batch of monsters. They became wary again. The monkeys were chasing Gian Kai. They ran very quickly, opening their evil mouths. The boy thought that he had wandered into their territory by mistake and was trying to escape, but they ran after him very quickly. One of the warriors told the captain that he was the only one fighting against 3 at once, and each of them is above their level. We need to help him. The captain called him an idiot and said that he must have attracted them himself, if we can't help him. Otherwise, we risk dying ourselves. We need to run away quickly. There was a huge explosion behind the guys, and clouds of gray smoke rose up. The level 12 giant monkey was killed. She began to fall with a roar through the dense trees to the ground. Gian Kai was very pleased. He thought that the critical strike speed had been increased, and the possibility of super crit had also appeared. The captain was very surprised because they all fought together to kill the level 11 monkey, and he killed a level 12th monkey in a matter of seconds. And how can this be? After destroying the evil monster, Gian Kai decided to move on. He began to attack the next monkey, which was even stronger than the previous one. The boy killed the monkey of a level 13th giant. All he had time to do was deal with them. Gian Kai decided that this was very good, and this time the critical strike speed increased by another 10%. It couldn't be better. The captain of the squad was very surprised and asked if he had killed another monster. The boy continued to deal with his opponents and decided to finish off another one. The captain exclaimed that this is a giant monkey of the 14th level, and it is the strongest here. He doesn't believe that he can kill her. As the boy approached the monster, he felt that his physical strength was almost running out, and that he would soon be unable to escape. His hand with sharp blades glowed with a bright red haze. The boy decided that he would have to speed up and deal with him before he was caught. You need to kill him first. He rushed towards danger and the monkey had already made a jump in his direction. Everything around began to glow with a bright red light, and the monkey began to scream very loudly and desperately. Gian Kai exclaimed that this is just great. The critical hit came in handy. The boy killed the monkey of a level 14 giant. The guys who were watching what was happening came closer. They noticed that he killed all 3. Even their team of 12 people couldn't cope, but he took out everyone on his own, who he even was. When Gian Kai killed the strongest monkey, he sighed heavily because he did not think that he would have to sweat so much. Well, now that he's got 3 monster cards, things don't seem so complicated. The blonde guy looked at the high rock and noticed a man there. He began to shout that trouble had come and the great man was leaving. What should they do now? The captain asked why no one detained him and said that it was a great pity. The guys could not understand what was wrong with the captain. Before us is a huge plain of ash. The plain was scarlet in color and yellow. Flickering lights fell down. One of the warriors asked if his eyesight was failing him. There are 3 warriors and 1 soldier with a healer, the famous Falcon team from the Huang Guild. Why did they come to the newcomers' area? This means that this is too simple a location for them. The level 20 healer said that they searched the entire plane, but they still couldn't find Gian Kai. A warrior of the 20th level approached the girl and took her by the throat and said that they say she met Gian Kai. He asked to tell where he went. The girl with tears in her eyes asked why they needed him. Then one of the warrior girls asked if she didn't know him. The guy said that Gian Kai provoked the Huang family, so he must be punished. The girl asked if this was true and said that Gian Kai was in the ruler's valley and they could find him there. The guy pushed the girl away and said that if she lied, they would find and kill her. The guys watching from the sidelines said that this was the strongest team of level 20 hunters. He thinks that Gian Kai will not be able to stand against them. The girl began to cough and ask if they were really strong. Fortune tellers will never tell rude people the truth. She explained that she had made a hexagram that showed that if they went to Gian Kai, they would die. The drawn circle on the ground glowed with a bright purple light, and an eerie face appeared above it in the bright rays. After another day in the ruler's valley, Gian Kai exclaimed that this was just great and he killed 16 giant monkeys and broke through to the 6th level. The boy stood on the dead monkey and thought that they say the corpse of a giant monkey can be sold for a very decent amount. If he can earn money, he will pay all his brother's expenses. A voice came from behind him. He was asked if he would like to join them. Gian Kai turned his head towards the people. He saw a whole crowd of warriors who were scattered across the clearing. They have 3 teams of people here who hunt giant monkeys in groups. If he joins, he will gain access to elite treasure chests. The commander of this detachment asked what he thought about this and whether he agreed to join them. Gian Kai told the guys in response that he doesn't have his own team. He asked if he would be alone. Then the commander looked into his eyes and said that everything was fine. He just needed to help them. The high mountain on which the guys stood was amazing in its size and seemed to rise to the very sky. The boy was asked if he could see that 4 elite giant monkeys lived there, and in front of them, next to them, was a treasure chest. But there are 4 of them and the level is high. They definitely won't be able to cope without his help. There were 3 teams in front of the boy. The commander explained that he only needed to take away one of them, and they would deal with the other 3. For his help, he will get access to the chest. Gian Kai thought about the elite treasure chest. They say that an elite chest contains many good things that can be sold for a decent amount. It is necessary to get them, but they are not at all worried about his safety, since they asked him to perform alone. Most likely, they hope that he will not return from there alive and therefore ask him for help. But it's time to show them true skill. The boy agreed with a smile. The commander said that this was very good and gave the command to act. He ordered the first team to go forward on the offensive. They ran towards the angry, huge monkeys. The monsters rushed screaming towards the crowd of opponents. The commander widened his eyes looking at the boy. He asked what he was doing. Gian Kai had already rushed towards the healthy monster, and his gaze changed, glowing with a bright white light. He was already flying up to one of the largest monkeys. She approached the boy with a loud roar. Gian Kai suddenly began to run away from the monster as quickly as possible. The commander, seeing this, laughed and said that this was very good and this guy was great. Very soon they will get the chest and it's time for them to get into the game as soon as possible. The guys moved towards their opponents. All that was heard was the roar of monkeys and many explosions around. Stones were scattered from these explosions. Gian Kai, running away from the powerful monkeys, thought to himself that he barely calculated. He thinks elite giant monkeys are much stronger than ordinary ones and should be more careful. He began to dodge the giant monkey and abruptly changed his trajectory. Many lightning bolts flew towards the boy. He thought that he too was far from simple. A huge monkey was approaching him, opening its powerful, creepy mouth. Her eyes glowed bloody red. The monster was already approaching the boy and extended his gigantic clawed hand towards him. Gian Kai began to attack the monkey and a huge explosion occurred. Bright yellow-red rays scattered around. A level 15 elite monkey giant was killed. The boy decided that it was just beauty, and he did not think that he would defeat her with just one critical blow. He smiled contentedly and thought that he might as well try hard for the sake of the chest. Meanwhile, the commander ordered his guys to work harder. He exclaimed that they needed to try harder because they would still need to share the reward. A strong blow hit one of the guys, and he flew far to the side screaming for help. Gian Kai approached a huge rock and, entering the cave, saw golden lights flickering in the stones. The boy realized that he had reached him and the chest was right there. It looks like a large sum is waiting for him. This is just wonderful because he was clearly worth the risk of killing a level 15 monkey. He heard the monster's terrible roar, and drool began to drip directly onto his shoulder from above. Right above the boy's head there was another monkey monster, and the echidna smiled at him. The huge gorilla began to approach Gian Kai faster and faster, jumping from above right on the stone. The boy could not understand where the elite giant monkey of the 20th level had come from. They didn't tell him about her. The system produced a rating of an elite giant ape, and this rating was very dangerous. The boy decided that the monster was hiding here on purpose. The monkey seemed to be guarding his opponent. He began to approach her, attacking and repelling the attack of a healthy giant. The boy realized that apparently he would have to fight with her. He began to attack the enemy and release bright red lightning towards the monster. The boy's eyes changed because it was very difficult for him to fight this formidable beast. Gian Kai noticed that the blow to the eyes had no effect. The system showed that the strongest elite giant monkey had 23 defense points and could not cause damage so easily. He can only take off 9 defense points, but he has a whopping 23. It turns out you need to first remove the protection and then take on your main life. Everything is exactly the same as with the Wolf Lord. The monkey began to fly as high as possible, and its eyes glowed with red fiery lightning. She dealt a powerful blow to her opponent, and the boy flew far away, hitting his back on a rock. He was in a lot of pain and realized that he didn't have enough attributes. The boy's head was very dizzy. Death on the Devil's Star will not be in vain. To go here again, you will have to wait a whole month. The boy decided that if this was so, he shouldn't have come here. The monster already held the boy in his paw. Gian Kai thought sadly that he needed to join the army to help his brother and sister. How hard it was for him now, and he closed his eyes and began to remember his whole life. Gian Kai heard someone's footsteps. He was slowly losing consciousness and lay with his eyes closed. They took the boy in their arms and asked him to wake up quickly. The man carried him in his arms. He asked the boy not to fall asleep, and all the time when I took him out of there, I asked him to try not to sleep. This whole picture flashed before his eyes, and the man told his brother to wake up without fail. He talked about how his brother would pull him out of the battlefield. There were many monsters around 10 years ago, the battlefield of gods and beasts. The boy was unconscious, as if he was in a dream. How could he even sleep? The evil monster was already opening its huge fanged mouth. Gian Kai thought that his elder brother pulled him and his sister out of the battlefield. But how can he act differently? Can he just die now? He cannot die so easily from the clutches of a huge evil monster, and something needs to be done. But the monkey had already swallowed his opponent and smiled contentedly with joy. She began to slowly leave the cave and moved faster and faster. His eyes glowed with a bright white light and foam began to come out of the monster's mouth. A powerful explosion occurred and the monkeys scattered into small pieces, falling to the ground. She fell with a huge roar and stones began to fly around. A level 20 elite monkey giant was killed. Gian Kai was happy that he succeeded and survived. Despite the fact that the external defense of the monkey is high, the insides and oral cavities are very weak. If you attack from the inside, it will not be able to defend in any way, just like with the Lord of the Twilight Wolves. The boy thought about removing the treasure chest for us while on his knees. Lines of blood flowed from his mouth, but he was thinking about who this chest was now his. Half an hour passed. The monkey began to fall to the ground and many of the same guys were killed. One of them raised his hands up and, standing on the monkey, thanked the guy who took one away. The second said that he must be already dead, but the commander appeared and said that if he died, they would receive more rewards and overall it would not be so bad. The guys began to approach the cave and say that the chest was already waiting for them. They didn't laugh and promoted that they would soon get rich. The guys began to enter the cave and approach the stone where the chest was hidden. The commander began to shout, not understanding what was happening and where the chest was. There was no elite chest here. One of the guys told the boss that it seems that during the battle that guy went into the cave. The commander asked why he didn't tell him earlier. The guy replied that he thought it was his imagination and he thought he could survive the battle with the monkey. It turns out that they fought in vain and spent several days of tireless work. The captain replied that even if the chest was not here, they should still receive at least some reward. They owe him for several months already. Could it be that some boy had fooled them? The commander began to scream with anger. Meanwhile, in the valley, the ruler is on the other side. Gian Kai thought that without them, he would not have gotten the chest. The boy decided to see what was new in this chest and began to open it. Gian Kai opened his eyes wide and was very surprised by what he just saw. In front of him was a huge chest containing many precious stones and other things. He exclaimed, looking at the contents, that it was very cool and there was so much ore and equipment here. The value of the Devil Star equipment is quite high and he is now rich. The boy heard a noise not far from him and, wary, glanced to the side. He saw another piece of equipment and began to peer into it. Gian Kai came closer. He began to select equipment and slowly put each piece on himself. When the boy put on the glove, he thought that these were gloves and how they could help. When he was fully dressed, he felt much better. Perhaps the equipment increases agility and strength. The boy decided to put on his gear and try to attack some enemy. Many spike-shaped arrows flew out of the equipment and scattered in different directions. They were shrouded in a bright golden haze and were very sharp and large. Gian Kai noticed that tongues of flame appeared on the spikes and were coming out, adding flame to any type of weapon. There are many types of flames on the Devil Star that cause different damage. The damage from a simple flame is extremely small. It can hardly be used for attack, rather for cooking. But did he really want to fry this simple flame? The boy clenched his hands and, upset, decided that they would only be needed for making a barbecue. Then he heard a loud and terrible roar in the forest again. These sounds were very loud and unpleasant. The boy became wary and hid slightly. An elite level 18 giant monkey appeared in front of him. Behind her were 3 more monkeys. In front of him were 4 elite monsters at once. Is it really all because of the gauntlet attack? Literally just now he could barely cope with 1 monkey. And now there are 4 at once. The boy thought that he could only concentrate on attacking 1 at a time. The monkeys began to approach and growl terribly. The boy noticed that it was impossible to break through the defense and the damage caused was 0. Lines of sweat began to run down your face and he decided, looking at his opponents, that this was very bad. It turns out that they know they need to protect their mouths and these monkeys are very smart. The monsters began to approach faster and faster, opening their terrible mouths. Gian Kai thought that even if they were running with their mouths open, he wouldn't be able to kill them so easily. Is he really going to die today? The monsters continued to run after him faster and faster. There were 4 healthy monkeys and they were already too close to him. Suddenly the boy stopped himself and glanced behind him. He noticed that the flame was still working. The monkeys began to glow in a bright yellow-red fire and growl menacingly. They were burning in this flame and were very surprised that this boy was able to inflict such a fatal blow on them. The monkeys writhed in pain and screamed with a wild cry, the flames getting brighter and brighter. The boy was very pleased that the flames still had an effect on the monsters. The rest of the monkeys were afraid to approach the fire when they saw that one of them was burning in a hot, cruel flame. Gian Kai clenched his fists, and looking at the fire, he was very surprised that the fire was very strong. The fire was so strong that the monkey could not get out of this flame and its eyes began to pop out of its sockets. The fire flared up more and more, burning the opponents. The boy continued to watch what was happening, but could not see anything in the fire. He looked deep into the fire and noticed that for some reason the formidable monkeys had suddenly died. When the flames stopped, the dead bodies of healthy monkeys lay on the ground. The level 18 elite giant monkey was dead. By the way, the damage from the flame was equal to 10, and he could not understand how the damage increased to 2,000. It turns out that he became 200 times larger, and it's just incredible what happened now. Gian Kai looked at his gloves and clenched his fists and said that the flames coming out of the gloves are not that simple. Not only does the damage increase 200 times, it also increases the power of a critical hit. In addition, team damage is also dealt. It turns out that the flame does not touch the monster's defense, killing it from the inside, so he will be able to receive up to 2,000 points per second. It's just great gear and the damage is pretty good. The boy exclaimed that now there was no reason to worry and would always be able to break through the defense. Thus, that night, all the monkey giant rulers of the valley became victims of real genocide. They were burning in a terrible fire and many explosions occurred at that moment. They had never seen a common man kill them with ordinary flames. They saw nothing but blood. The fires burned brighter and brighter behind the backs of the formidable monkeys. It felt like there was a demon at work in the valley. Gian Kai laughed and said that everything within a 10-mile radius had been cleared. The next day, in the ruler's valley, thick clouds of smoke emanated from the ground. The boy exclaimed, looking in front of him, that everything was very great and he was pleased. In just one evening, he killed a dozen giant monkeys. I was also able to improve my level. Currently, the damage from the gloves has become much higher, and he thinks that at level 20 he will be invincible. Now he has 10 elite treasure chests and giant monkey corpse cards, and he can sell them all for a lot of money. The boy looked at the table and was very pleased with his achievement. It's even lonely here. He misses the days when he fought side by side with Yuju and Nuanuan. He thought about it, remembering what they had and wondering how they were doing with the military. He thinks that his business is much better than his. Meanwhile, on the other side in the Valley of the Ruler, the guy clenched his fists and asked what kind of place this was and why there was no one there. Where have all the monkeys gone? And why did he even come here? After all, not a single monkey has been seen for several days. Yuju could not understand who killed them. Suayai also said that she lacked Gian Kai's efficiency. Before the girl had time to finish speaking, a man approached them and asked them to stop chatting. He explained that previously it was easier for them to fight monsters because they were in the beginner zone. But now, everything has changed, and if Gian Kai had brought them here, nothing would have changed anyway. He specially brought them to the Ruler's Valley so that they could become more independent and asked them to stop whining. It is necessary to continue the search for giant monkeys. The guys agreed with the commander, but they themselves thought that they missed Gian Kai. And now 3 days have passed. A group of people said that they could not even think that after spending so much time in the Ruler's Valley, they would only stumble upon ordinary giant monkeys. Moreover, there were no problems with them, and they are too weak. The second man laughed and said that he thought killing Gian Kai would be much easier. The guy said his point of view that killing a man and an animal are completely different things. Then the man turned in his direction and looked at him questioningly. The guy began to explain that a few days ago they saw how one deity single-handedly killed 3 monkeys. The guys exclaimed that it was very cool. The commander asked if one really killed 3. This must be cool for low-level players. While one of them was eating something, the other looked at the table. Clenching his fist, he was very surprised and exclaimed, turning to the guys, "Would they say that they saw this man?" The guy replied that it just so happened that this was the very deity who single-handedly killed several monkeys at once. They must be wrong. One of the warriors said that they should take a closer look, because this was just a 5th-level beginner. But the guy told the others that if they don't believe it, they can see for themselves. They saw him emerging from the Valley of the Ruler. He even got to say hello to him. Then the warrior grinned and, moving his eyebrows to his nose, asked if they wanted to say that Gian Kai was somewhere nearby. He was very angry and wanted to meet this guy as soon as possible. The guys held weapons in their hands and said that the time had come to fulfill their mission. They will finally finish him off. One of the guys realized that it seemed they were going to find a deity. The second said that the deity looked very strong, and he would not be surprised if they were hunting for him. At the same time, the crowded exit from the Ruler's Valley, the guys could not understand what had happened to these monkeys. The man asked where the rest had gone. The guy replied that they didn't even have time to do anything, really, and they were all killed. At this time, the cause of all troubles passed by them. Gian Kai thought that during these 3 days, he killed several more giant monkeys and even managed to increase the level to 10. In addition, he received 19 elite treasure chests. He thinks it's time to return to the city and sell everything. While he was thinking about this, the voice of a guy was heard in the distance calling him by name and asking him to stop. The guy exclaimed to Gian Kai that he had been sitting with his head hidden for too long. It took a long time to find him. He was very menacing and addressed him with hatred. Another group asked if this was not the 5th hunting team of the Huang family. The second participant asked why they were not interested in this guy. Gian Kai saw the Huang family from the guild in front of him. He exclaimed that it turns out they were sent by the Huang family. Then the guy clenched his fist and asked if he was asking such obvious things out of fear. The guy exclaimed that he provoked the Huang family and must pay for it with his life. Opponents began to approach their enemy faster and faster. To attack, Gian Kai said that he only overtook Huang Wei and asked if they were sure it was worth it. The guy laughed and exclaimed that he didn't care which of them was right. Does he know how much they will be paid for this? Gian Kai clenched his fist and said that since they value everything in money, then they should expect a strong blow from him. The boy, clenching his fists, approached his opponent and asked them not to blame him. A squad of guys grabbed their guns in anticipation of the boy, who was very boldly approaching them. One of them exclaimed that he was very funny, and did he think that some pathetic flame would stop them? The girl also laughed and asked whether the young master really died at the hands of this scum. Gian Kai laughed and called it all banal. He said that his flame was too low. From the outside, another guy said that he would be stronger and looked as if he gave them a light. The boy looked at them and asked if they were funny. Now they will see how their current damage is to them. Wouldn't it bother them if the flame damage became a little stronger? One of the guys was simply shocked, and his eyes became several times larger. The others were also surprised when they saw that the flames had become much more powerful, and the guy screamed in this fire. The guys began to call for their captain, seriously frightened, and streams of sweat flowed down their faces. The captain could not understand what was happening and why the damage had become so severe. The flame enveloped him, burning stronger and stronger. The guys from the team were very scared as the fire began to approach them. The fire was very hot and burned very quickly with incredible power. One of the warriors began to scream and could not understand what had happened to her. The second one started screaming that something was wrong with him too. The flame was very hot and incredibly huge. It rose higher and higher, as if to the sky, and everything around was on fire. Traveler Gian Kai kills a team of 5 and steals the team members' experience. The guys watched from the sidelines and couldn't understand what was happening. They were very scared. The boy came out of the flames and said that since they were in such a hurry to find him, clenching his fists, he finished the sentence that he would accept their attention with pleasure. The guys got scared and began to grab their heads with their hands. How could he single-handedly take out an entire team? This is the 20th level elite. If he had not seen with his own eyes how he kills people with ordinary flames, he would not have believed it in his life. The warriors could not understand who he was. Why can't they look at all its characteristics? A table appeared in front of them, and the system displayed inaccessible information about the user. Suddenly, the guy's gaze changed, and he exclaimed, covered in sweat, that he understood everything. Is this really the god of flames, relying on his equipment to kill everyone around him? The guys began to call him the god of flame. Gian Kai said that this is great because he has risen 2 more levels. The boy couldn't understand why they couldn't see his characteristics and asked the system. The system explained that everything was thanks to his profession as a gambler. At his level, there should be completely different characteristics. And since they are very different, it may shock others. That is why his indicators are not visible to anyone. Gian Kai asked if this was true. And it's very good that they don't see anything, but they will be less jealous. Devil Star City Shenyao. In front of us is an exchange store. The boy said hello and said that he would like to sell his equipment. The girl was sleeping behind the counter and answered saying hello, that she understood him. Gian Kai decided that no one comes to this store and the place is not the best. The boy began to say that there were not so many things and he asked to count them. The girl stood up and tiredly replied that she would now see what he had to offer. When she began to peer, she was very surprised by this. The boy explained that there were several corpses of giant monkeys. A whole table appeared in front of her with the boy's achievements and he wanted to show something else. Gian Kai explained while showing the girl his rewards that there were 19 elite treasure chests. He apologized and asked if she could see him. He would like to know how much he can get. The girl was simply shocked and thought that in front of her was a professional hunter. She couldn't understand where he got so many things from. The girl laughed and asked him not to worry. It just so happened that the main seller is in front of him and today she will calculate everything. The girl thought that she should get this client in any way. The girl was doing calculations, peering at the monitor and constantly sighing. She told a respected client that corpse cards could sell for 10,000 and chests for 170,000. In total, he can receive 180,000. This is 180,000 Devil Star coins. Gian Kai thought that 1 Devil Star coin could be exchanged for 10 coins of Shenyao City, giving him a total of 180,000 coins. We'll be able to cover all medical expenses. We can assume that he has already fulfilled the bet. Not only will you not have to join the army, but you will also be able to pay for hospitalization costs. The boy was already walking along the road when a girl called him and asked him to wait. She reminded him that she had told him fortunes the last time. Then she advised him to go to the ruler's valley. She thinks he got himself into trouble there. Gian Kai replied that this was indeed true, and the trip to the valley helped him a lot. He thanked the girl for her advice. She asked if he could then help her fulfill her request. The boy said to say what she wants. The girl explained that her name is Huen and she asks to take her to your team. She wanted to fight him side by side, but the boy turned around sharply and said goodbye to the girl. She asked where he was and whether he was really leaving. Even the military assesses her profession as useless. There was no need to wait for another one. She said that she knew he was interested in the equipment and asked if he wanted to pick it up. She promised to give it away for free. This is the last time she visits the Devil's Star anyway. The boy was surprised and asked if she was poor. Doesn't she really want to switch off forever? Doesn't she want to try to make money? Huen replied that she still wouldn't be able to make money. In the end, no one needs such a profession. When the military decided that a feng shui master was an important profession, she managed to reach the 20th level and then retrain as a fortune teller. But the initial abilities of a feng shui master lay in a more acute perception of place and time. And after acquiring the profession of a fortune teller, she can only predict fate. And when the military realized that fortune tellers had no combat skills, they decided to abandon them. Since they were weak, no one wanted to accept them into the team, so it was impossible to advance. Nobody takes her to fight monsters, although she comes here every day. And if she returns to Earth, she can work at a construction site as a laborer and get at least some money. Gian Kai told the girl that he understands how difficult it is for her. He is also not a rich man. He always has to worry about his brother's health and pay for medical expenses. The girl smiled back and told the boy that she understood him perfectly. She also has a brother and sister on Earth, so she cannot give up. The girl thought to herself that everything was fine and she would continue to fight in her life. Gian Kai thought, and beads of sweat began to flow down his face. He thought that she looked like his brother. He also strived to develop on the Devil's Star, giving his all for the sake of the common future. But after the responsibility for him and his sister fell on his shoulders, he decided to give up his dream. Huen headed towards the exit and asked if he still needed her equipment. She said she would get him now. After all, in any case, someday I will have to return to normal life, and said goodbye to the boy. But suddenly he stopped her and said that his name was Gian Kai. Now it will turn off, but then it will come back again. He asks if they meet again on the internet to create a team together. Huen was happy and surprised at this proposal. She clasped her hands in front of her and asked if he was telling the truth now. The boy replied that he was really telling the truth, and if he was lying, he wouldn't be able to earn another bed. The girl wiped away her tears looking after him. She realized that he was very worried about money and therefore did not swear by it. Suddenly, she ran up to the boy and hugged him and thanked him. She said he was a wonderful person. He asked what she was saying. The girl replied that they were just nice words. In front of us is the land, Gian Kai's home. The boy appeared on the doorstep of the house and went to visit his relatives. He told his brother and sister that they would no longer need to work since he had money. The brother asked if he was telling the truth. The sister asked where he got the money from and whether it was even legal. Gian Kai asked what she was talking about because he made money from the Devil's Star. Now he will be able to pay for his brother's operation, and she will continue her studies. The brother asked if he had a hard time. Gian Kai, holding his head with his hand, answered his brother that everything was fine, and he tried much harder. His brother asked him not to worry because he had suffered enough and asked permission to help him now. The guys raised their cups of tea and exclaimed, clinking their glasses, that they would drink to a real family and to health. When the boy drank from his cup, he heard the sound of his phone and wondered who was calling. He glanced at his mobile phone and realized that the commander-in-chief was calling him. He told the boy that he had won the bet and asked if he was free now. He said he would send someone for it and wanted him to see it. Gian Kai was surprised by the call from Commander-in-Chief Wei. Outside the Shenyao safe zone on the battlefield, the man explained that it was here. Gian Kai exclaimed that many years have passed, and this is really what the city of his childhood has turned into. He was very surprised by such big changes and glanced to the side when he heard something. The boy asked the commander-in-chief why he called him here. Suddenly, somewhere nearby, a beast growled with a very loud, eerie roar, and the boy became wary. In front of him, there was a lot of fire and cinders were flying in different directions, presenting a not very beautiful picture. A huge beast with sharp, long fangs appeared in front of the boy and had many horns on his head. Meanwhile, the guys from other teams were armed and were approaching this beast. Gian Kai exclaimed that there was a man fighting a beast in front of him. Currently, every Devil Star traveler who has reached level 20 occupies a certain level in the table. And so, travelers from the 1st to the 80th levels, although they have divine power on the Devil Star, in life it is worth nothing. The awakened ones are completely different people. Some, being at the 81st or 120th level, become special and receive certain abilities, a power that can usually only be used on the Devil Star. Terrible explosions occurred all around, and the flames rose to the very sky higher and higher, illuminating everything around. The guys continued to fight the monsters. They were fully equipped and had no fear of death. This power from the Devil's Star was available to them on Earth. The appearance of this force in real life not only brings huge changes to the military power of mankind, well, it helps to resist the monsters living on Earth. And this is the most effective help to humanity. The guys continued to fight, fully armed and equipped with the monsters. Gian Kai clenched his fists and, looking at what was happening, exclaimed that he had killed a monster, and that was very cool. The commander-in-chief asked the boy if this was really cool. If only he knew that this was an ordinary animal. But so far they only have 2 awakened ones at their disposal. He continued to explain to the boy while looking off into the distance. Gian Kai's sweat dropped as he thought about it. The man explained that in recent days the situation has not been the best. He asked him not to think that he would always be safe. It is very dangerous here and people need help. He won the bet. So he is not going to put pressure on him, but he will once again ask him to join their army. As for the Huang family, he has agreed on everything and will not be touched. It's strange to him why the boy cares so much about him, but he thinks that intuition is to blame. His intuition tells him that he may be able to become the strongest man in Shenyao. He understands that the boy wants to protect his family, and after joining the army he will have to go to the battlefield where it is very dangerous. But still, every person is responsible for the ups and downs of this world. Who should fight the monsters? Eventually, one day he too will die in battle, but he is a resident of Shenyao. Therefore, he is ready to die for his homeland, and this is his friend. The man was very serious in his conversation with the boy. He told Gian Kai that he would not force him and only hoped that one day he could defend his home. He hopes and believes that the boy will fight for Shenyao. The man tried to reach the guy's heart. Gian Kai then rested on Earth for a few more days and then went to the Devil's Star. And here before us is the Devil's Star, the city of the gods. The boy thought that Commander-in-Chief Wei was so optimistic. Can he really become the strongest in the future? He decided to think about it later. The giant monkey from the Ruler's Valley is no longer a threat and it's time to meet another monster. The system returned an elite monster banshee. He delivers a powerful destructive blow to the traveler with a scream and has the body of a ghost, so it is not so easy to hit her. The scream of a banshee can immobilize travelers within a radius of 10 meters and causes intense feelings of fear. Only attacks from a distance of less than 10 meters can harm the banshee. He thought that it inflicts severe damage, so it is impossible to approach it closer than 10 meters. Well, you won't be able to attack her from being more than 10 meters away. The monster looks much more powerful than the giant monkey, and he thinks he will need a teammate. At this time, the girl asked not to shout at her because she was waiting for the team captain. Gian Kai appeared behind her. He asked the girl if she had been waiting for him since the shutdown. Huen told the boy that she knew that he would return and she was already waiting. Gian Kai told the girl that he understood. The girl said that he promised that he would take her to fight monsters. She found him a strong teammate. Fortune-telling showed her that the person would be very useful in the fight, and asked whether to show him or not. He was very surprised that it could help him with monsters. Gian Kai asked if this was some kind of drunkard. So the guy greeted him and said that his name was Yuju. The guy approached him, put his hand on his head and exclaimed that he was a drunkard. Gian Kai immediately began to run away and said that he did not agree. But the girl laughed and asked her friend if he was serious now. Huen asked the boy to accept him anyway. He is very obedient and hardworking. Yuju froze in anticipation and really hoped that they would take him to the team. The girl exclaimed that he would do whatever he wanted. He will be a great teammate, and he is even ready to share awards. When Gian Kai heard about the rewards, he immediately stopped. He raised his hand up and took the guy's hand in it. He greeted him and said that he would be his captain. At first glance, he saw talent in him. From now on, he becomes a member of the team. The boy raised his hand and exclaimed that today they would go hunting for banshees. In the end, they are now one family, and they need to get ready to go. Yuju asked if he was serious about one family. Huen replied that she was serious, but they were not a family, but free workers. And here in front of us lies the wide valley of the ruler of the kingdom of the elite monster Banshee. It was a terrifying level 20 monster. He howled and growled with a terrible cry. This monster had long black hair, and his eyes glowed with a bright red light. The claws were long and black, and the fangs were white and very large. The Banshee was female and wore a long, disheveled dress. Gian Kai asked the guys to be careful because she is much stronger than the giant monkey. If they are discovered, they will immediately kill them, and they need to be quiet. He wanted to point out that a banshee can only receive an attack if you stand no more than 10 meters away from it. You need to get closer to her. The girl sighed and turned to the captain, but he asked her to be quieter. Huen wondered. She began to sigh again and call the boy captain. Gian Kai asked the girl to calm down and be a little quieter, but Huen told the captain that she didn't say anything. He heard sighs again, and it was as if he was being called. The boy asked if she didn't say this, who said it then. They looked back. Yuan was lying on the ground with bottles in his hands. He screamed like thunder, piercing his ears. The guy was very happy that the captain found him and continued to drink from the bottles. He said that he would certainly drink to his captain, but a terrible roar of a banshee was heard in the forest. She opened her creepy fanged mouth and began to approach the guys. Gian Kai asked Yuan what he was doing now. Didn't Huen say that it would be useful in fighting monsters? The girl replied that she just wanted to persuade. Suddenly, a heartbreaking scream was heard in the forest and the banshee began to approach her victims. The drunk boy lay on the ground and fell asleep. Drooling flowed from his mouth as he slept very soundly. The system reported that his condition had changed and his current condition was poor. Gian Kai exclaimed that it was very scary and this banshee was very strong. The boy froze in place and could not even move. Huen told the captain that he could not survive and would apparently have to wait for death. The drunk guy woke up and laughed and asked where such a beauty came from. Had she really come for him? This must be fate. He asked permission to hug her. The banshee had already fallen near him, approaching and opening her mouth. The drunk guy continued to talk about how she has lovely drool. He placed his hand on the monster's cheek. Huen exclaimed that the ability to move had returned and the captain's wretched condition had been lifted. Gian Kai could not understand what was happening. Could Yuan be controlling the banshee? The boy thought that the banshee's blood-curdling scream had a cooldown time, so they had to deal with her before she used the technique again. The boy gave the command to his boys to act faster and jumped high into the air to strike. The banshee lay on the ground with her arms outstretched to the sides. Yuan was next to her. He grabbed her by the shoulders and asked permission to give her a sweet kiss. He approached her as close as possible and said that from now on she would be his wife. Suddenly, a powerful explosion occurred as the boy directed all his energy against the monster. In the thick of the forest, thick clouds of gray smoke could be seen rising straight to the sky. Yuan opened his eyes and began to call his wife. The guy's face was very red and excited. Gian Kai clenched his fists and exclaimed that everything was fine and they succeeded. Huen said that the captain killed her in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, the guy, after waking up, fell to his knees on the ground and started screaming. He called the boy a monster and said that he burned his wife. The guy was very upset. He couldn't stop crying and talking about how she was the love of his life. He won't be able to love anyone else. Gian Kai asked the girl how often Yuan catches a squirrel. Huen explained that he simply couldn't help but drink. In addition, he has a tendency to fall in love with ugliness while drunk. The girl told the captain that in the meantime she would get him an elite chest and a map of the banshee's corpse. By the way, he wasn't afraid of the banshee at all. That's what he thought about the Gian Kai guy. It turns out he could handle it alone. What people don't like most about drunks is that they get out of control when they get drunk. Well, how can this be called a disadvantage? He can ignore his fear. The boy thought about it and decided that he really helped them. Huen was already approaching him with a large chest in her hands. The boy smiled and realized that Yuan was a real threat to all banshees and laughed to himself. The girl noticed while looking at the boy that he had a very creepy smile. Another banshee hut. A light turquoise smoke emanated from it and rose up through the chimney. There was a banshee in this hut and she howled very menacingly and terribly while sitting inside. She heard people not far from her and felt blood flowing through their veins. Gian Kai turned to his comrade Yuan and said that this was all for him. The girl also gave the command to her friend to rush forward. The guy laughed and exclaimed that there was another beauty in front of him. There was complete disregard. Yuan laughed and told the beauty that his mouth watered. He asked if the girl would treat him with her juices. He decided that she liked him too. Gian Kai was glad that he managed to deceive and now he could attack. Meanwhile, the guy again called the baby to him and said that he had fallen in love again. He promised the banshee to spend a very hot night with her today. At this time, Gian Kai's blades were already flying towards him. They pierced right through the banshee. Yuan did not have time to approach her lips. There is a huge explosion, and the traveler Gian Kai kills the elite banshee. Yuan called them monsters and said that they burned his wife again. The guy got very angry with his comrades and began banging his head on the ground. Gian Kai exclaimed that it was simply beautiful. And it's time to visit the next banshee while he's still under the influence of alcohol. In the next 3 hours, the guy asked not to kill his new wife, who was already the 11th in a row. Yuan sat on the balcony and said with tears in his eyes that these beasts killed his 23rd wife. And the guys rejoiced at the chests with treasures and equipment. The guy did not stop crying for his already 35th wife. Chests with rewards kept appearing for the boys. Gian Kai laughed and exclaimed that this was very cool, and he didn't think that 35 banshees could be destroyed so quickly, but it's all thanks to Yuan. Huen said that she could not even think about such a thing. The boy said that after killing 35 banshees, he rose 2 levels at once and is now at 14, and the price for this is the broken heart of a comrade. Huen was indeed right, and he was very useful to them. The girl replied that she thought she needed to somehow support Yuan after breaking up with the girl, but the guy began to cry even more and said that it was useless. Huen ran up to their comrade and finally found him. The guy kept calling them beasts. Gian Kai thought that he managed to collect 2 skill cards in the Banshee hut, so now he can get an additional skill. The first skill is Prayer for Rain, thanks to which you can summon rain. In a certain area, you can even create entire lakes and rivers. The boy told the girl that she was already at level 29 and her fortitude was much higher than his. Therefore, the skill should belong to her. Huen was very surprised that she got the skill card. She thanked the captain and said that she finally had new skills. Finally, she can fight too, the girl exclaimed, turning to the captain, that from now on she would worship him. Huen fell to her knees in front of the boy and truly began to worship. Gian Kai asked her not to do this, but the girl continued to rejoice and raised her hands up. She laughed joyfully. Huen exclaimed that she was no longer trash. Another hidden skill, activation skill. The boy decided to try it because despite the fact that this is a one-time skill, it can still be very useful. The system congratulated him on activating the additional casino theft skill. When this skill is activated, he will be able to steal several of his opponent's characteristics and add them to his own. After half an hour, the skill ends. The boy was very surprised and asked the system if this was really the effect of the skill. When the system responded positively, the boy grabbed his head and exclaimed that such a valuable additional skill could only steal characteristics for half an hour. He has more than 200 points, but with such a skill, you can only steal 0.2 points, and what's the point in that? Yuan put his hand on his head and, opening his eyes, asked if he was sleeping and why his heart ached. Huen approached her comrade and asked if he had forgotten that during the night, he managed to become a widower 35 times. The guy apparently began to remember, and lowering his head exclaimed that he remembered. He twisted all the events that happened to him and streams of sweat began to flow down his face. He began to cry even more and apparently became shy. He told the captain that he had only disturbed him with his profession and began to apologize. If he is not satisfied with it, then he can leave the team. But the boy gave him clothes and asked what he was talking about because yesterday, everything was thanks to him. He was a great hero, so he gives him equipment. Gian Kai explained to his comrade that if it weren't for him, they would never have dealt with the Banshee. He is the core of their team. Yuan began to cry again and told the captain that he did not need this. The most important thing is that he can be there for them. But the boy asked him to take the equipment because he promised that he would treat his comrades well. In addition, Huen also relies on equipment. The girl immediately turned her gaze to the boy. She didn't expect Gian Kai to give her battle equipment and was very happy about it. The guys both looked joyfully at their captain and clapped their hands with happiness. They exclaimed at once that they would always follow the captain even if they died for him. The boy asked what they were doing. Before us is the Devil's Star exchange store. Here they are again with their favorite client. The girl exclaimed that this was simply amazing. Today, the total amount will reach 840,000 Devil Star coins. Gian Kai replied to the girl that it is just great, there are so many Shen Yao coins. Now, he has sorted out all the expenses. At this time, the locker room of the exchange store. The boy thought that now he not only has enough to live on, but he can also buy things. He bought trousers and a raincoat that would help him sneak around unnoticed. The equipment was simply amazing. In addition, he now has armor that will allow him to withstand mortal attacks. Gloves also do their job. Thanks to his flames, he can unleash powerful attacks. Gian Kai, leaving the store, noticed that he now feels much stronger than before. Now he can withstand even a level 20 traveler. Now he is definitely confident in his success. When the boy went outside, Yuan noticed him and ran to the captain. He started shouting that he got something. The guy was carrying a large, thick log on his shoulder. The guy approached his captain and, jumping up, asked him to take a look. Gian Kai began to stop him and asked what he was doing. Does he really still hold a grudge for his 35 murdered wives? The boy's gaze changed and he could not understand what Yu was doing now. He ran towards him very quickly, after which the guy threw this thick log as high as possible above his head and asked Gian Kai to go back. But the boy did not have time to react, and the force coming out of this log hit him straight in the chest. The guy approached his captain and said that he thought he often had to take care of his own safety. He handed the captain a small sharp blade and said that he had decided to help him a little. Now he can rely on the power of the magnet to suck in everything that flies at him. Gian Kai replied that he had nothing to worry about now. In addition, such throwing away the weapon can cause damage to the enemy. The boy approached his friend and, patting him on the shoulder, said that he didn't think he was so talented. Yu explained to the captain that he had studied it himself and asked if he was really impressed. The boy replied that, of course he was impressed, and he assures him. He raised his hand up and turned away, thinking about something while looking in front of him. Something was falling from the gray and gloomy sky, and he could not understand what else it was. Yu asked the captain if he was sure he had not deceived him. Huen appeared in front of them, laughed, and exclaimed that it was her. She studied the prayer for rain, but it seems to be useless. Gian Kai asked the girl how her skills could be useless and asked her to look at her surroundings. If the rain can increase, it will even be able to defeat opponents. It was really raining very hard. The boy extended his hand to catch the raindrops. The guys stared at him. Gian Kai continued to explain that the enemy would become a living target, and he would kill anyone he wanted. The girl laughed and asked if it was true. It turns out it can be useful. In this case, she will train even harder. Gian Kai thought that now that Huen and Yu have acquired new skills, their team has become much stronger than before. One of the guys asked what kind of rain this was. Now all his equipment is wet. What if the Huang family starts blaming them for the delay? Gian Kai thought about his words and asked him to wait. He said that the guy was just talking about the Huang family. Then the second one asked if he was really sitting without the internet. The Huang family guild is planning to send 200,000 people to the permafrost island to hunt the boss. Defeating the boss will allow you to expand the Devil Star. Therefore, many travelers go to this boss. Everyone is responsible for the ups and downs of this world. Didn't he know about this news? The guys did not have time to finish speaking with the boy and decided to run away quickly so that they would not be punished for being late. Gian Kai thought that the Huang family wanted to hunt the boss of the country. He wondered if Huang Wei would be there. Currently, this beast is rampant throughout the entire Earth. Not every country is able to withstand it because it requires a lot of resources. But the resources of the Devil Star are guarded by bosses of completely different levels. So you first have to kill the monster in order to take possession of the necessary materials. The level of monsters on the Devil Star ranges from low to high, regular level, elite level, martial, command, royal level boss, and map boss, as well as guard lord. So for a king level boss, you need to gather hundreds of thousands of soldiers to resist him. Does the Huang family really want to make such a large-scale contribution that they will be the first to stand on the Devil Star? Maybe Huang Wei's family decided to reform and stop their atrocities in order to bring hope to the world. Every person is responsible for the ups and downs of this world. After all, someone has to stand up and fight the monsters. Did Huang Wei really decide to become the one who would risk everything for this world? Devil Star is a permafrost island. It was really cold and gloomy there. A lot of snow and high icy mountains also conveyed the feeling of permafrost. Huen told the captain that he knew that it was so cold on the permafrost island. But the captain told the girl that he really didn't know. Then someone called them very loudly. The guys stood on a high mountain peak and asked what team they were from. Don't they know that it's better not to walk on the lake? Gian Kai replied to the guys that they were here for the first time and asked why they couldn't walk here. The man kept his arms crossed over his chest and asked if they were newbies. As they all know, under the island there is a monster's lair. But they walk on thin ice and can fall through at any moment, as they do not understand. And don't they know that by doing this they will only alarm all the fish? Before he could finish speaking, the monster was already approaching them. It was a huge monster in the form of an unusual fish with sharp fangs. A two-legged fish human of level 22. Huen was very surprised when she saw the fish man. The guys began to slip and fall. One of the men from the other team called them idiots. The second said that in order to defeat a fish of a person of the 22nd level, a team of people of the 20th level is needed. As they all know, the fishman specializes in melee attacks, so it's quite difficult to resist this fish. Gian Kai had already clenched his fists while standing in front of the monster. The guys were sure that this team was definitely finished. The girl began to call her captain. The boy began to use his abilities, namely Ghost Armor and Blur. The blur has been completed. The monster was already lying on the ice, and the boy was talking about how he thought he would be stronger. A powerful explosion occurred, and Gian Kai flew up to the fish, knocking it down with a powerful knee blow. Yellow bright flames rose straight to the heavens from this strong blow. The team that was on the mountainside was very surprised and simply shocked. The guy was very surprised how he survived the fishman attack. How about a level 20 team to kill her? The guy gritted his teeth and said that he was only level 10 and a penny, and he killed her in a matter of seconds. Gian Kai planted his fist and, being very pleased, exclaimed that it was not so cold now. He called his comrades and said that they needed to return. He thought to himself that his strength now was 76 units. A critical hit deals at least 15,000 units of damage, but it's better not to consider this a special bonus. This is only the lowest damage from a critical hit. The boy thought about it, calculating everything in its place. Currently, his damage is rated at level 20, frees up storage space. Therefore, he is able to defeat his enemies at this stage of development. Huen told her captain that she took the fishman card. The boy thanked her and said that she needed to get up. He raised his head to his older brothers and asked if they knew where Huang Wei was now. The guys asked how older they were to him. Rather, they were younger. It just so happens that they know where he is and can even show him the way. And somewhere on the island of Permafrost, where tall trees rose up being shrouded in snow, Gian Kai thought that he didn't want the guys to see their showdown with Huang Wei, so he left them in another place. I think the guy said he should be here and he wants to talk to him alone. Before he had time to comprehend it, a familiar voice called him. When the boy turned around, he saw Huang Wei in front of him. The guy went to meet him. Gian Kai told him that he was impressed by his decision to kill the country's boss. It seems to him that he needs to forget about their past grievances and together contribute to the development of the country. But suddenly, the guy began to attack him, and bright blue lightning came from him. Gian Kai was very surprised and asked what he was. After all, he came to talk to him. Huang Wei became even more angry and took his sword out of its sheath and headed towards the boy. He looked up at him and exclaimed that he had killed him. He had to undergo long-term treatment, and now he decided to arrange reconciliation. He wants to take revenge on him for then killing him in front of such a public, but the military ordered his family not to touch him. That is why he decided to take the initiative and gather a whole group to go against the boss of the country. During this battle, no one will be able to protect him. Gian Kai now understood what his goal was. Huang Wei said that he did not think that he himself would come to him. He asked permission to finish him off, and he decided to take advantage of his merits in killing the boss. Then no one will touch him if he finishes him off. Gian Kai replied to the enemy that he apparently thought too much about him. He thought the boy had changed, but it turns out he is still the same Huang Wei. But if he wants to kill him, then let him do it with the whole team. In the end, he dealt with his mercenaries. One of the guys exclaimed that he finished them off only thanks to the help of the military. Their master also has level 10 and S-rank equipment. Does he think that the guy can't handle it? Suddenly his gaze changed. He told the guys to wait a little. How was he able to reach level 14 so quickly? Meanwhile, Gian Kai's opponent was already completely blazing in the bright golden fire. The guy started screaming, not understanding what was happening. He grabbed his head with his hand and began to burn. Huang Wei asked for help. The warriors noticed that their master was burning in fire, but why was it so powerful? Gian Kai explained that their master was dead and asked them not to get in his way if they did not want to follow his fate. But the guy began to rise from the fire and said that he was still alive. His equipment helped save 1% of his life, which is why he is still alive. Huang Wei asked his guys to quickly help him finish him off and torture him to death. The soldiers immediately obeyed their commander and began to run to his aid. Gian Kai clenched his fist, which glowed with a bright red flame, and asked his opponent if he wanted to continue. He liked this option because he wanted to try out his new technique at the same time. The boy began to approach his opponents faster and faster, hitting them with bright rays. One of the guys exclaimed that he had shot so much but didn't hit a single one. He wondered what his accuracy was. Isn't it scary to fight them knowing that they are at levels 30? Gian Kai was already approaching the guys without fear of anything. He was completely covered in fire and, lowering his head, reprimanded them that they were not listening to him. He asked why not shoot the bird then, and began to approach the enemy with an attack. A powerful explosion occurred and a bright flame rose higher and higher, as if to the sky itself. The guy stood in front of a huge fire, looking forward as his opponents burned. The soldiers watched from the sidelines and were very scared. Are the darts really back? In addition, a guy with less than 20 levels killed a commander who was at level 32. They were simply shocked how this guy could kill their commander in just 1 second. But Gian Kai exclaimed that he was not finished yet and began to approach one of the warriors. He looked into his eyes with a contemptuous look and said that he was returning the blow. The boy directed all his strength against this guy, and a huge beam of bright, fiery light flew straight into his chest. The guy lit up with a bright yellow flame and streams of sweat began to flow down his face. He was completely engulfed in the conflagration and burned to the ground in this bright, fiery flame. One of the guys asked what kind of skill he had and why he was so deadly. Did this guy make some kind of deal with the devil? Huang Wei called them parasites and asked if they couldn't see that he was only good at long-range attacks. The guys decided to attack their opponent together, and they needed to get as close to him as possible. Huang Wei thought that Gian Kai is good at long-range attacks and does a lot of damage from afar. Therefore, you just need to get as close to him as possible, and they began to approach their opponent in a crowd. The flames began to rise higher and higher, and Huang Wei was shocked by what was happening. Without thinking twice, the boy scattered all his warriors and began to approach Huang Wei. His look was very creepy and bold. He called the guys complete trash and asked what the difference was between them. Huang Wei began to back away and exclaimed that this could not be happening. There is too much difference in levels between them, and he asked what the boy did. Gian Kai clenched his fist and replied that he planned to forget about their grievances, but he will still continue to pursue him. Is he speaking correctly? Huang Wei backed away and asked what he was going to do with him. The boy replied that it was okay because he himself wanted to kill him, so he was going to answer him. Last time he already killed him, so why doesn't he die one more time? Gian Kai had already approached his opponent and directed a turquoise beam towards his head. Huang Wei screamed with a terrible cry and was defeated by his enemy forever. After killing Huan and the mercenaries, the main character rose to the 17th level. However, at the same time, the young master received the punishment of the bloodthirsty killer from the system. Thus, the opponents saw his location and 10 drops of tears of repentance were needed to remove the damage. The young cultivator was surprised because he was expecting a positive bonus from the program. But instead, he was forced to constantly hide from a huge number of killers. The doubling talent also automatically increased this negative effect 10-fold. Thus, upon death, Jiang could be demoted to the first level and lose 30 characteristics. Kai realized that he needed to immediately find these miraculous tears of repentance in order to lift the punishment. Meanwhile, on the Permafrost Island, in the garrison of the Huang family, there was by no means peace and quiet. The guards heard the head's furious indignation over Wei's death and understood that it was better not to touch him now. The enraged Thun shouted that his great son was dead, who, like them, fought for the future of the star. Extremely upset, Brother Da asked his father what they would do now. Huan stated that they first need to go to the boss, and once they kill him, the military will retreat, and there will be a chance to deal with Kai. Most of his henchmen liked this plan of events and supported the leader. At this time, Jiang met his friends and hurried them to leave here, since he had killed Wei. Suddenly, a strong wind rose, and an incomprehensible sound appeared. The guy immediately stopped and began to look around, suggesting that the Huang family had started a war after all. Hugh suddenly turned back and saw something unimaginable. She immediately called out to Kai. The ice literally cracked at the seams. The teenager, like the others, did not know what to expect from this place. A moment later, huge fish-like monsters climbed out. There were dozens of them. But that was not all, because numerous demons could not appear without their leader. A couple of seconds later, a monster emerged from the icy water, clearly not with good intentions. Even the youth's system was unable to determine the current level of the frozen fish lord. The friends, frightened, began to ask Zhang what they should do and how to defeat this monster. But by that time, Tun's army had already appeared with him at its head, who ordered them to immediately prepare for battle, to make, in his opinion, an invaluable contribution to the development of the Devil Star, adding that they will all end up with fame and fortune, so they need to stick together. Huan's oratorical skills could only be envied, and his monologue impressed the soldiers. The ruler of the family, in turn, continued to drive naive people to certain death. Thus, Thun's fighters attacked many demons, and a bloody battle began. Naturally, Friends began to dissuade the main character from going to the boss, because there were too many participants in this event. The young master hastened to reassure them, saying that it was really better for them not to interfere now. Instead, the young cultivator suggested observing what was happening. Moreover, Huen will not be able to control him now, and the monsters will clearly weaken Toon's powers. Meanwhile, the faithful soldiers of the head of the family died in an unequal duel. Suddenly, a huge fish, level 25, appeared behind several warriors. One of the guards urged his colleagues not to be afraid and rushed first into battle. As a result, he dealt a couple of blows to the monster, but was unable to injure her. Moreover, the fish literally dragged him under the water to feast on him. Subsequently, in front of his brothers, the monster ate the overly self-confident fighter. The soldiers' morale instantly disappeared, and the frightened people retreated back. Jiang's friends were also shocked by this turn of events and couldn't believe their eyes. The guy noticed that until the dominant monster is defeated, the fish will not stop appearing. But in fact, the confrontation between people and fish is not the main event. After all, it is the special ones who can fight back the boss and even try to defeat him. By that time, 8 of them were able to get closer to the Lord of the Fish. And using their best abilities, they rushed to attack the Ice Big Man. Soldiers attacked the boss from literally all sides and carried out a series of crushing blows. However, this was not enough to really harm the monster. As a result, the ice flow sparkled with the numerous skills of the special ones. Most naively believed that the monster would not withstand such powerful attacks. However, Kai said that in fact they did not hurt him and everything is not as simple as it seems. After which the young man immediately used Ghost Eye Focus. In this way, the teenager was able to see that the efforts of Huen's warriors were in vain. After all, they couldn't even break through the defense of the Lord of the Frozen Fish, which caused most of the soldiers to panic, and they left the battlefield in horror. The ice boss in turn began to massively destroy the guards. With just one powerful blow, the monster was able to kill dozens of fighters. Everyone finally realized that it would not be so easy to deal with him, and their lives were in the balance. No one had ever managed to defeat 8 specials with just one attack. The main character assumed that this was a king-level boss because no one else could have such power except them. Suddenly, another one appeared who wanted to try his luck and rushed into battle with the Sea Demon. The young master could not understand what he was counting on, since 8 not ordinary warriors died in front of him. However, the extremely self-confident soldier continued to press on the boss and, as a result, clashed with him in battle. Everyone froze in anticipation of a miracle, although they understood that the chances of success were quite small. But surprisingly, the young man still held on and tried to resist the monster. The mutated fish lord did not expect to face such incredible power. Because the guard not only attacked him but also blocked the monster's blow, declaring that he would not bring pain or suffering to anyone else, he then attacked the boss again. In fact, it was the strongest spearman in the Xuanwu Guild, named Gian Kai. At the same time, the traveler had a special talent and could receive strength from dead comrades. Soon, they again faced a fierce battle with the leader of the demonic fish. Subsequently, Fan still managed to break through the defense of the huge boss. The monster lord was shocked by this result and realized that he had underestimated the man. All the soldiers instantly began to harbor hopes that very soon the traveler would defeat him. Tong was pleased with this outcome because he knew about Zhang Fan's technique, and that the warrior would become stronger from the numerous deaths of his comrades. Thus, the spearman's strength increased by 200%, which was fearsome. His power was comparable to dozens of soldiers, and the fighter himself again rushed towards the boss. Delivering his crushing blows, the guard finally eliminated the monster. Tong immediately began to smile. He was more than pleased with the work Fan had done. The huge brute, in turn, fell into the water and literally turned into an ice floe. Everyone rejoiced at the incredible fighter, because he alone was able to deal with the giant fish. A moment later, no less weak opponents crawled ashore in the form of human fish, level 32. This is what the frightened Yes told his father, because with every minute their number will only increase. Huen immediately called on all remaining fighters to use all their strength to defeat them. He himself understood perfectly well that the monsters were too dangerous and there could be serious losses. The main character watched what was happening and realized that it was necessary to help Fan. Since the battlefield is now divided into 5 regions according to the levels of the demons, where the boss was naturally at the top and the path to him lay through the strongest human fish, Toon distributed the army across all the battlefields, but in the event of a breakthrough in the rear, it would not be easy for Fan to cope with the leader of the monsters. At the same time, Huen understood that even he might not survive this fight, but he had no other choice. Therefore, He asked his son how long it would take for the fish to reach the battlefield. Yes, I looked at the map and roughly calculated that they would arrive in 10 minutes, after which a brutal massacre began, where Thune's forces held back extremely strong opponents. The young cultivator also did not sit idle and destroyed the elite fishman. However, his friends continued to persuade him to retreat because there were too many demons. Naturally, the young master refused to leave the battlefield, especially at such a crucial moment. When the balance of power can collapse and then they will definitely die, which means they need to act. Jiang would be happy to see the Huang family die, but in this case, the other 200,000 innocent people would also die. After all, absolutely everyone is responsible for the ups and downs of this world. And that's why you can't leave, because you need to destroy all the monsters. The crew members were shocked by the captain's statement and did not know what to do. Kai, in turn, went towards a huge cluster of monsters. Having said that he will certainly deal with them and this will all finally end, in just 10 minutes, the monsters began to overpower Thune's forces and gained an advantage on the battlefield. One of the wounded soldiers ran up to the captain and called on him to begin his retreat. Most of the mutilated warriors were also determined to leave this location. Meanwhile, the extremely brave and courageous captain declared that they could not escape. After all, 10 minutes had already passed, and the enemies had not overtaken them. But this never happened, which raised some questions and seemed rather strange. The soldiers thought about it. Since this was indeed suspicious, one of the guards said that the Huang family did not station an army in that direction. The commander noticed that this once again proves that there is someone very powerful in the rear. By that time, the young cultivator had eliminated some of such fierce and powerful monsters. At the same time, Jiang used his abilities in abundance and continued to kill demons. The main character literally burned the fishmen using various techniques. Then, several more monsters were exposed to the young master's high temperature. In this way, the young cultivator defeated 20 demons, but they continued to come. However, unexpectedly, the monsters managed to grab the team members and drag them along. Jiang hurried to free his friends, ordering them not to get into trouble anymore, adding that it was better for them to hide somewhere while he dealt with the monsters. Extremely concerned friends asked if he could deal with so many mutated fish. Kai, as always, was confident in himself and began to deal with the demons one by one, which was quite a long task, but safer than fighting with a crowd of monsters at the same time. Therefore, Jiang again rushed towards the angry monsters, and suddenly an explosion occurred. The captain's teammates were in shock. The fat man could not understand where Kai had such strength. Huan's warriors also noticed the explosion and said that something incomprehensible was happening in the rear. Joyful. Yes shouted that most of the fish people were destroyed and perhaps this was the work of the military. But Thune refuted his guesses, saying that they could not have arrived here so quickly. After a certain time, the military finally came to the aid of Huang's army and hurried to help Fang, who continued to bravely resist the unbroken lord of the frozen fish. Thus, the boss's health was reduced to 65%. The guards were very happy about this and noticed that there was very little left. Brave Fan, in turn, began to finish off the icy big man and rushed towards him. Yes urged him to be careful, since after the loss of blood, the boss entered a new stage. In this case, his attacks will become more fierce and fast, and Zhang Fan only needs to reflect the blows. What the young warrior did not succeed very well, the guy took on several attacks from the Lord of Fish. Subsequently, the spearman survived, but his health dropped to 5%. He understood that he could not cope with him. Everyone present watched what was happening and believed that the boss would kill Fan. But at the most crucial moment, the teenager activated the special's combat armor and became covered in magical fire. At the same time, the young man experienced incredible pain while modifying his armor. Finally, the process was completed, and Fan was able to reduce the damage of the Ice Lord's attacks, which, with the help of combat armor, ricocheted at the Lord of the Frozen Fish himself. The main character realized that this durable armor was the talent of the Special One. Huan noted that this technique allows him to deliver crushing blows within a minute. The boss will also lose more lives when using his speed attacks. A moment later, the monster's health dropped to 35%, which couldn't help but please Thun. Everyone began to naively believe that Fang would eventually crush the king-level demon. But unexpectedly, the Lord of the Icefish people used his unique ability. As a result, the young master's battle armor collapsed, causing him devastating damage. His wounded body collapsed to the ground. Jiang Fan only had 1% of his health remaining. Admiration suddenly changed to shock, and Huan could not understand how this could happen. It is worth noting that the demonic fish lord actually used this skill in a timely manner. After all, By doing so, he literally buried all of Tun's hopes. He was frightened and didn't even know what to do. The leader of the permafrost island fell into despair and did not even hear his panicking son. The young cultivator, in turn, clearly understood the need to act. Meanwhile, Huen's people began to persuade the head to withdraw the remaining troops and leave the boss. However, Captain Lee bravely confronted the enemies and blocked the attack with his shield, asking forgiveness from Nuon and Juzi for bringing them here, where they were overtaken by death. After all, he just wanted to prove to them that he was actually stronger than Jiang, adding that he turned out to be a bad commander, because unlike him, Kai never put them in danger. Stunned, Nuon began to look around to find help from someone. Since her strength is not enough for a healing spell, and she will not be able to save the captain, realizing that the boss could no longer be defeated because his army continued to advance, time seemed to stand still. The girl slowly looked around at the dead bodies of her brothers. At that moment, the monster broke through Lee's defense and dealt him a painful blow. And when the fishman began to finish off the commander, a fiery rain suddenly poured from the sky, which literally burned the monster and thereby saved the life of the defeated Lee. The captain did not have time to understand what exactly happened and sharply backed away to hide from the meteorite. However, he understood one thing. Someone had used a magical call. Juzi and Nuon suddenly saw a painfully familiar silhouette and began to take a closer look. Finally, they recognized the boy as the main character, who immediately rushed to attack. The young master greeted his friends and stated that he needed to defeat the boss. The wounded Z could not believe that the young cultivator actually went to him himself, adding that such behavior is inherent in him, but this is a rather dangerous undertaking. But Kai had already managed to burst onto the battlefield, where he crushed his enemies with an unknown force. The Huang family guards naturally paid special attention to him. Friends urged Jiang not to enter the state of the bloody killer, since he is in front of the eyes of 30,000 people and everyone will want to kill him. One of the soldiers arrogantly called on his fellow soldiers to eliminate the killer. Since they can get a huge amount of experience for him, in the blink of an eye, everyone rushed after Kai. However, an explosion suddenly occurred which took away any desire from them to attack him. Nuon and Juzi believed that the mercenaries had killed Jiang and began shouting his name. But then they saw the young man run out from the crowd of warriors scattered on the sides. Realizing that he definitely didn't need help, they breathed a sigh of relief. The self-confident soldiers could not understand where this man had such incredible strength. Z and Nuon, in turn, continued to rejoice at the teenager's success and supported him in every possible way. Lee was horrified because Kai was attacked by fighters of at least level 20, and there was not a scratch on him. In the meantime, he told his father that Jiang had unexpectedly appeared on the battlefield and was next to the boss. But Toon said it was necessary to cut down on their casualties first in order to deal with the youngster. Huan Jr. had a strange feeling about the young killer. It seemed to him that he could defeat the Lord of Fish and take everything for himself, but this arrangement of things did not suit him. Suddenly, Kai remembered the words of Commander-in-Chief Ying, who urged him to protect Sheng Yao. The guy himself didn't understand why he made such a promise, especially now it was necessary to take away as much territory as possible. In this regard, Jiang asked the artificial intelligence to enable a one-time ability. Thus, the main character stole a small percentage of the enemy's stats every time they looked at him. This technique worked once and lasted about 30 minutes, after which all accumulated attributes were deleted. This was appropriate, because in Bloody Killer mode, everyone paid attention to him and felt his presence. There were about 300,000 people on the battlefield. The young master began to go around everyone, to accumulate a huge amount of much-needed characteristics. At this time, the stunned Da informed his father that Jiang had rushed towards the king-level monster again. Toon, in turn, began to be indignant about this and asked his son to take some action. But Huang Jr. stated that the young cultivator's characteristics had increased dramatically, and even higher than that of the general. This information infuriated the head of the permafrost island. Kai continued to run towards the Lord of the Monsters, and at that moment a huge fishman blocked his path. He was a representative of the elite army and was at the 51st level, which naturally instantly attacked Jiang, but the teenager managed to dodge the blow. Tone naively believed that the guy would not be able to cope with this monster because he had many dangerous skills in his arsenal, and when Kai flew straight into the mouth of the water demon, Wan said that this was the end for the boy. However, the cultivator knew how to surprise and at a certain moment delivered a powerful blow. The result was shocking, as with just one attack Jiang killed the fishman. But the difficulties did not end there because stronger monsters appeared each time. Soon, an equally large ice commander of the fish people, level 74, emerged. Of course, most of the guards backed away, not understanding what they were dealing with. Suddenly, the furious monster screamed loudly. It was like ultrasound. Everyone was literally deafened, and Kai was no exception. The sound pierced him to the bone. The Huang family, represented by Da and Tong, began to say that going against the boss was another mistake of Jiang. It seemed that everything was over. The guy could not move from the insane scream of the demon, who immediately rushed to kill him. But the fat man drank beer at the right time and, drunk, plucked up courage. As a result, he boldly rushed into mortal combat, protecting his commander. The young man launched a devastating series of attacks, not giving the monster a chance to come to his senses. The fat man once again attacked the monster and brutally beat the bewildered fishman, which a moment later threw the brave man aside, causing him considerable damage. In his drunken dreamer state, Yuen could significantly reduce the damage he received. Everyone was shocked by the fat man's incredible abilities and thought that he was some kind of general. The young cultivator, in turn, did not understand why he came to his aid. Suddenly, Yan said that they would never leave the commander in trouble, after which the sorceress summoned freezing rain to rain it down on the monsters. Then Hu urged Jiang to leave altogether, since Yu would not last long and she could help him. At this time, the extremely strange Yuen again rushed towards the leader of the fish people. Naturally, the young master did not abandon his subordinates and began to fight with them side by side. Meanwhile, Huan's mercenaries saw lightning in the sky above the mountain and realized that the sorceress had used the prayer for rain. But they did not understand how ordinary rain could harm those who live in water. However, afterward, the guards noticed that this was not just rain. Ice flows literally flew from the sky like a meteorite, piercing the bodies of the fish. But at the same time, this phenomenon caught their attention, and all the soldiers immediately began to look for places to hide. Yan herself could not get enough of her new skills, because before her technique did not have such crushing power, stating that during the rain prayer the monsters will not get close to the commander, thus giving Kai the opportunity to finally deal with the dominant boss. The piercing ice flows continued to sow panic among the demonic guards of their leader. Jiang's ward suddenly said that they were all one team, and he should remember this. The young master was speechless, because the young commander never expected this. Meanwhile, the soldiers rejoiced at the turning point in this war. Kai said that he underestimated his team, but now it seemed to dawn on him, and he is really very grateful to them for their help. Jiang rarely allowed himself such revelations, after which he literally plunged the icy wasteland into the mouth of the volcano. The fire irreversibly consumed all the fish. Huang and his men were shocked by this result, because Kai defeated a level 70 monster with just one blow. It was truly incredible, as even entire teams could not achieve such success. The main character in turn was immensely happy, because he had accumulated a huge number of necessary attributes. Approaching the Lord of the Fish People, the young master said that previously he was afraid of him, but now everything has changed. The monster lord only had 35% of his health remaining. Tone and Da and the others couldn't believe their eyes, because the guy still made it to the boss. The young cultivator immediately rushed to attack to finally finish what he started. The icy big man instantly grabbed his trident and began to fend off the young man's blows. Li guessed that the fish lord would now carry out a critical series of attacks, and Jiang would not survive. But he still couldn't hit such a resourceful and dexterous Kai, for whom the speed of the monster was too slow and he easily avoided its blows, wondering how he could get as close as possible to the giant in order to carry out a fatal attack. At this moment, the boss struck again, but as before, Jiang dodged it, then jumped onto the trident. Those present watched what was happening in bewilderment and could not find a logical explanation for Jiang's strength. The team, of course, rejoiced at the success of their commander and continued to support him in every possible way. At this time, the guy moved along the trident towards the Lord of the Mutated Fish. The ice monster immediately attacked him with its octopus tentacles. However, he was unable to inflict damage on Jiang, who in turn began to attack him with fire, which had a rather painful effect on the royal-level water demon. Thus, the boss had about 25% of his lives remaining. Everyone was just talking about how the killer had somehow managed to remove so much health from him in some incredible way. At this moment, the monster lord suddenly stabbed his weapon into the ice, which created an incomprehensible effect. The boss suddenly began to glow with magical light. The main character looked with contempt at the huge leader of the fish people. The king level holder also glared at the young master with hatred. Rumors began to circulate among the Huang family that this teenager was indeed stronger than Jiang. Nuan admired the strength of the young cultivator. Even the mortally wounded Fan was amazed by the boy's technique. Meanwhile, the guy asked the arrogant boss if he wanted to know all his power. Suddenly, the icy big man shouted loudly into the sky, making an incredibly shrill sound. But Kai no longer fell for such tricks and continued to approach him. Suddenly, the leader of the water monsters aimed his trident at the young man. Subsequently, a powerful release of cold occurred and everything literally froze. The mercenaries assumed that the killer was finally dead, and the matter was only just a matter of time. But as it turned out, this was just an illusion, and in fact, Jiang turned out to be alive. Appearing again, the teenager personally announced this and asked the boss if he really didn't know about this technique. Thun's soldiers were terrified and did not understand how he managed to survive. Kai, in turn, was tired of demonstrating superiority and he decided to get down to business, after which, in a split second, he inflicted incredible damage on the ice brute. As a result, the boss was enveloped in flames, and the lord of the demonic fish fell to the ground. Thus, Jiang left him with only 15% of his health. The Lord of Monsters began to realize that he really could not defeat a person. However, it was already too late, as the teenager carried out another extremely painful series of attacks, after which the water monster had only 5% of its lives left. Kai diligently continued to plunge him into the fiery cloud and literally burned the boss. A moment later, the ruler of the local seas was finally defeated by the killer. There was complete silence. Everyone felt both hatred and admiration for the main character. The bloody body of the ice giant testified to the power of the young master. But at the same time, the ruler of the fish people had only 1/10% of his health remaining. Huang was in complete disbelief and could not believe that the young cultivator had defeated the boss. But the most important thing is that he remained absolutely unharmed and pleased with himself. Meanwhile, Nei asked Jun how it happened that they came at Tong's invitation, but the monster had already been killed. Lu replied that he himself did not understand how this could happen, but it was on this young man that Commander-in-Chief Wei pinned his hopes. At that moment, the teenager said in a cheeky manner that the rain had stopped, and the boss was already dead, so it was time for him to go. But Huan shouted that the monster had little health left and ordered his men not to let it be finished off. Thun also called on everyone to immediately stop fighting the demons and help him kill the boss. As motivation, he promised to pay them 50 million for the killer's head. But if Jiang kills the Lord of Fish first, then no one will receive a penny. The mercenaries began to actively discuss this issue among themselves and came to the conclusion that they really needed money. As a result, they followed Kai to earn more money. People literally turned into animals and began to push each other. In pursuit of an unimaginable amount, they seemed to have stopped thinking and turned into savages. Jiang found this whole action quite funny and just smiled, watching human greed. By then, the guy had found the wounded Fan and helped him to his feet, asking if he was okay. The surprised master asked in response why he was helping him, because the boss had only one blow left. But in fact, Kai respected the brave warrior and thus showed him his attitude. He also suggested that he finish off the ice brute so that the Huang family would finally end their suffering. In addition, he is the main representative of his family and will be generously rewarded, and that is why he should deal the final blow, because Fan was the first to volunteer to confront the boss. Shocked, Jiang did not understand why the young master was doing this and why he was helping him. The young cultivator, in turn, hurried the guy with the process, because those who wanted to do it would do it for him. Fan thanked the main character and hurried to finish what he came here for. Finally, unsheathing his blade, the traveler pierced the monster's body with his sword. With his last breath, the boss screamed loudly in pain and fell into eternal sleep. The system instantly notified everyone that it was the Xuan Yu Guild that defeated the demon. Everyone began to ask themselves the same question: why the bloodthirsty killer didn't do this? Meanwhile, a huge number of fish people saw the death of their leader. In connection with this, they instantly began to retreat en masse, knocking each other down along the way. The guards tried to figure out how Fan managed to bypass Jiang, but Da was sure that it was Kai who provided such an opportunity to the strongest spearman. After all, by refusing his fatal blow, the teenager received much more money. In addition, people's recognition of him as a local hero was fundamentally different from the title of bloodthirsty killer. Nuan and Juzi were also delighted with this outcome and admired noble Jiang. Even Captain Li admitted that the young man was at a completely different level of combat training. Hugh suddenly said that the clan had recruited the wrong people as its leaders. Suddenly, Huan's army began to realize that Thun really didn't care about their lives. Due to this, almost all the warriors immediately left the Xuanwu Guild. This is what Da told his narrow-minded father, who understood that trust in him had already been undermined. Huan was furious and did not know how he would get out of this situation. Suddenly, Tong began to retreat and told his son that they would definitely take revenge on Jiang next time. At this moment, the joyful fan approached his savior and began to thank him for his help. Then, he suddenly asked the guy what his characteristics were. But Kai was quick to explain that he could only exchange their attributes once. At this time, not far from them, the tentacles of an octopus crawled out of a small crack. Jiang continued to tell Fang about the punishment of the bloodthirsty killer. However, after a couple of seconds, the tentacles grabbed the teenager with lightning speed. As a result, the huge octopus dragged him underwater. Fan was shocked and did not know how to help him. Stunned, Hu instantly ran up to Jiang and asked where Captain Kai had gone. Fan asked a counter question. "Is he really her commander?" Yan answered positively. Then the guy said extremely sadly that it was his fault and he had bad news for her. Since there is a high probability that the young cultivator provoked the boss's posthumous revenge, which is activated after the death of the monster itself and usually with a fatal outcome. And almost no one can cope with this skill of the Fish Lord. But the worst thing is that if anyone managed to return from the Devil Star, that person was doomed to eternal suffering. His mind simply cannot get used to the thoughts of the punishment that will await him. Shocked, Yan could not believe that the commander would really not return, and tears began to well up in her eyes. Meanwhile, the young master finally regained consciousness and opened his eyes. Subsequently, he discovered that he was grabbed and held by the boss's tentacles. The main character began to try to free himself, but the tentacles literally began to penetrate his body. The system reported that in 20 seconds, all the characteristics he had accumulated would disappear. Then Kai realized that the monster wanted to drain all the energy from him and kill him. And if this really happens, then Jiang will not survive and the boss will absorb his soul. After a couple of seconds, the program notified the owner that the ice giant's revenge had been activated. There was very little time left and the young cultivator began to get nervous. Realizing that this was the end, Kai, in an incredible way, nevertheless freed himself from the demon's tentacles. As a result, he collapsed onto a certain platform with 10 seconds left before the attributes disappeared. But at the same time, the young man did not know for sure whether his previous characteristics would return. At this moment, the Lord of the Demonic Fish pointed his trident towards the guy. There were 5 seconds left and the teenager decided to invest in one single blow. Therefore, he ordered the system to remove absolutely all the spikes in order to maximize damage. Thus, the main character managed to carry out a powerful attack in the last seconds. Subsequently, an explosion occurred. One could only guess how it all ended. A moment later, the young master stood with his head held high above his defeated boss. At this moment, the system suddenly appeared and congratulated the owner on passing the boss. She also invited the owner to the treasury. The room with the jewels was located in the underground kingdom of the fish people, where the main character went. Approaching the huge door of the frozen fish lord's hall, the young cultivator looked at the monster statue with interest. Suddenly, the program announced that in 10 minutes the kingdom would be destroyed, and Kai must have time to pick up the treasures. Concerned, Jiang asked what would happen if he did not escape in time. The system calmly replied that in this case he would die and all the jewelry would disappear. In the kingdom of frozen fish, all the torches instantly lit up. The guy realized he needed to act. After all, he just needs to take as many treasures as possible and leave the hall. After a couple of minutes, the young man found a certain door and hurried into the room, where the whole room was literally filled with gold and various crystals. At the same time, the teenager discovered secret drugs that increased characteristics by 60 points. Naturally, Kai began to drink the miraculous potions, since there was little time left. The program, in turn, clarified which attributes Jiang intended to improve. The guy chose to improve his agility. The young man also found the boss's treasure chest, for which the system congratulated him. The teenager was delighted with so many awards, and they were no lower than A rank. But suddenly, the program notified Kai that the chest of gold was limited in time and would disappear in 90 seconds. Jiang, like a madman, attacked all the riches and hurried to take them with him. While sorting through various treasures, the guy found what he had been looking for a long time. These were tears of repentance, which could help eliminate the state of punishment in bloodthirsty killer mode. Thus, Kai not only earned a lot of money, but also acquired the necessary ingredients. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a piece of paper attached to the wall, and Jiang wondered what it was. The program reported that this is the formula for transforming the 20th level specialization, after applying which, he will be able to change profession, but only upon reaching level 20th. The next day, the young man's friends held a funeral for him and wept bitterly. Assuming that Fan told the truth, the commander would never return to them. At this moment, Hu suddenly discovered a fishman crawling along the gorge. Yen immediately threw a stone at him and thereby pushed Kai into the abyss, without realizing that it was the captain. As a result, an enraged Yang collapsed to the bottom, loudly expressing his indignation. Suddenly, Hu heard a rather familiar voice and began to think. Soon the main character climbed to the surface and continued to make claims to his friends, who did not even look at who exactly was in the gorge. At this time in Zhangzheng, at the 18th base of the Devil Stargate, the commander was asking the agents about Kai. Nei replied that they did not meet him, but they found the reason for the rapid growth of Jiang's strength. He used a one-time skill. Wei said that if everyone were as capable as him, then the special ones would be of no use. June noticed that everyone who fell into the boss's posthumous revenge died, and Kai was most likely no exception. Shen also naively believed that the problem with the young cultivator was already closed. However, the commander stated that this young master did not fall under the category of ordinary warriors. In addition, it is quite possible that he not only survived, but also obtained the treasures of the Lord of the Fishes. Nei said that in the 50 years of the Devil Star's existence, a couple of outstanding individuals were able to do this. Lu agreed with Shen and said that Kai had been registered for about a month and had no chance. The Supreme Commander sighed heavily and said that his intuition spoke differently. At that moment, an assistant suddenly burst into Ying's office and said that certain goods had been registered, adding that it was Jiang who opened the outlet in Devil Star. The total value of the items sold was 400 million. Everyone was shocked by such a sudden turn. Kai was indeed alive. The special ones immediately checked the auction, where the guy was putting up unimaginable crystals and various ingredients for sale. There were also materials of the highest quality. June and Nei were horrified by the young man's tricks. The commander in turn laughed and noted that this little guy was truly incredible. The assistant suddenly announced that the Huang family wanted to talk to Mr. Wei. Meanwhile, in Shangyao at the trading house, Jiang sold out all his unique goods. His friends supported him and said that he had earned a huge amount of money. Suddenly, Kai said that he had gifts for Yuen and Hu. The guy gave Yan a frost jade, with which she could summon storms. Yu received an ice shield, freezing the enemy for several seconds. Jiang also talked about several items that will help them improve their performance. After all, in order to increase the level of a profession, you need to have the appropriate book, and it can be obtained by killing bosses. But there is another way, a certain scroll that increases the level of skill, and this is exactly what he received from the Lord of Fish, the Eternal Remnant. Page, in turn, is worth about 500,000 coins at auction, which is quite a lot. Moreover, depending on the ability, the number of pages required for improvement varies. Hu and the Fat Man understood little, but they were very interested in listening to their commander. In their eyes, Kai looked like a rich traveler who was simply giving them money for entertainment. Suddenly, they rushed into Jiang's arms, saying that they would pray for his well-being every day. The main character called on Yuan and Yan to immediately calm down, since people were already paying attention to them. At this moment, the impudent Da suddenly approached the young master and asked if he knew what shame was. After all, he behaves like a savage and tries to make sure that they pay attention to him. Naturally, the young cultivator recognized him and greeted him extremely reluctantly. Huan continued to provoke the guy in every possible way and said that he would not be able to hide behind the military forever. And in the next battle of the guilds, he even promised to kill the teenager. Kai only smiled in response. But Da still did not let up, and said that soon the military would understand everything and leave him to his fate. Jiang only thought about one thing. What kind of guild battle is this, which he asked his teammates about? Hugh said that this was a competition specifically created to select the best guild. The minimum level for participation is 21st, where there is a distribution by strength, because there are also levels of 40 and even 100, after which each clan sends 5 people to fights, and in the end, only the top 3 remain. The perplexed young man did not understand why Huan even decided that he would take part in the tournament. Kai soon went to Zhangzheng to see his brother in the hospital and left the team in Shengyao. Of course, my brother was sincerely glad to see Jiang suddenly appear in his hospital. The main character, in turn, was generous and bought the most for his relative. He literally had nowhere to put so many gift boxes in his room. The guy said that as soon as he was discharged from the hospital, he would immediately improve his financial situation. However, Yang said that he shouldn't worry about it, because he had always dreamed of fighting the beast god, and as soon as he is released, he can become a real traveler. But the brother said that he would need a lot of money to get to the Devil's Star. The teenager immediately transferred several million to his account, and repeated that money was not a problem. The stunned brother asked where he got so much money from. Kai replied that he had worked for many years for their family, and now he has the opportunity to live in pleasure. After all, he remembers how his brother saved him and his little sister on the battlefield with the beast god. And if in the future he decided to become special, then many people will be grateful to him. Suddenly, the guy asked what would happen to his body. Jiang calmly broke the apple and handed half to his brother, adding that everything will be fine with him and that a completely new life awaits him. After leaving the hospital, Kai was in a good mood because he had helped make his brother's dream come true. Suddenly, Agent June called out to him and urged him to get into the car immediately. Having got into the car, the young man asked why there was such a rush because he still needed to pick up his sister from school. Lu said extremely sadly that she actually had an accident, and that's why they came to him. Yang was simply shocked by this information and did not believe his ears. The main character instantly arrived at the scene of the accident and began searching for his little sister. The young master ran among the crashed cars and shouted the girl's name, but she was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, the thin, feminine voice of his sister called out to him, and the young cultivator immediately turned around. Kai found his sister right in front of him and joyfully ran up to her. Asking if she was okay, a perplexed Yingzi replied that she was fine, since at the most crucial moment she was saved by one person who said that he knew him. The teenager turned around and saw Fang smiling. Jiang couldn't understand how he ended up here. The extremely surprised guy asked what he was doing here and why he had come. Then Lu intervened in the conversation and hastened to say that the accident was not accidental, adding that it was actually the Huang family who set everything up. Kai was horrified. They also aim to ensure that the military turns away from him and uses all their forces to do this. After all, they have to make many concessions for the sake of his safety. But the commander does not want to let the situation take its course, since only in the event of his death, the military will cease to act. In addition, Wei refused to participate in the guild tournament. The commander-in-chief sincerely believed that Zhang would cope with all the tests sent to him. Thus, the Huang family forces Kai to participate in the upcoming competition. Otherwise, his family will be in danger and there may even be unforeseen consequences. The guy was horrified by Thun's cunning plan and began to wonder what he should do in this situation. June only sadly added that even the military is unable to resist their family. Nie noticed that Jiang had two options, either to take part in the competition or join the ranks of the military and officially enlist their support. Concerned, Yingzi asked whether the military could really protect them. Lu stated that at the moment Kai's profession is very valuable and the guard commander will protect him. However, Yang did not think that the army would be able to keep him safe and everything would go smoothly. Moreover, during this time he could relax and let everyone down at a crucial moment. And then, the Huang family would still get to his relatives. He also could not compare with them in terms of money. But since the luck talent increases stat points, an opponent of the same level will be weaker than him. And even if the battle is not equal, with a certain strategy, Kai will still be able to deliver a critical blow. After all, gambler is a new profession that Thone had never heard of, so he decided to make their conflict public. Moreover, if he continues to destroy Huan's forces, the military will not leave him. June understood the guy's condition and said that he would prepare everything for transfer to the army. But suddenly, Zhang asked if the military could help him since he only had 3 people on his team. Shocked, Lu began to urge him in every possible way to forget about it and think realistically. After all, if he gets caught in the competition by the Huang family, then a collision cannot be avoided. However, the young man could not be convinced. He only thanked June for his help and said that everyone has their own path. This means that he himself determines his destiny and the path to it, so it is worth taking part in the tournament. Lu continued to dissuade such an impulsive protagonist from this idea, but to his surprise, Nei supported him and said that he admired the courage of the young master, and he will personally help him in everything, because the Huang family will not back down anyway. Fan also said that he was indebted to the young cultivator and would help in this confrontation. Yingzi, in turn, was delighted and shouted that her brother would succeed because she would support him in everything. The perplexed June continued to urge them to come to their senses and think soberly, But the warriors had already finally decided everything and asked Lu if he was on their team. Realizing that he had nowhere to go, the agent agreed, especially since the commander ordered him to keep an eye on Kai, adding that he will take care of his family and he should focus on preparing for the competition. Jiang once again thanked them for their help and said that he was now in their debt. On the way, the guy explained to his sister, since Huen became more active, he and his brother could no longer live in the slums. Approaching the luxurious building, Yingzi asked if they had come to the right place, because the houses here cost millions. The teenager placed his VIP card on the reader and smiled. It is worth noting that the house was really luxurious, and the young lady could not believe what was happening. The girl literally ran around the whole house and drew attention to the huge pool. The spacious living room and large gym also surprised her. Yingzi couldn't get enough of it, but the most important thing was her room, which the girl instantly fell in love with. The caring brother asked if she really liked it and was satisfied with everything. The girl looked at him and asked in response if this was not a dream and they would live here. Kai confirmed her guesses and said that their life was just beginning and now everything would be fine. At this time, upset Nuon and Juzi wandered through the forest and wondered why everything happened the way it did. The captain will soon be replaced. The girl also did not find an answer to this question. Suddenly, Jiang called out to them. An and Z turned around and couldn't believe their eyes. Joyful Zhu asked the commander if he really decided to join the ranks of the military. The teenager answered in the negative, but noted that he had enlisted their support for a while since he would soon take part in the guild tournament. And to help him, Wei entered into an agreement with the Huang family for his participation in the competition. And before that, Tong intended to kill the boss, to put pressure on the military, and that's why Kai asked Nuon and Juzi for help. Naturally, the friends happily agreed to participate in the tournament and show the Huang family true strength. Unexpectedly, Tzu asked if the guy really wanted to take them to his team. After all, in the army they have a small rating among fighters, and the evaluation there is quite difficult. And if a newcomer has an E rating for a long time, like he and Nuon, then the military refuses such a warrior. In this regard, An and Ju said that the young master might regret his decision. But the main character was sure of the opposite and said that after the tournament, they would return to the army and he would give them an A grade. Zai asked in surprise whether the young cultivator really already had level 15, since the captain must be of high rank. At this moment, Jiang's team approached them and Hu said that there would be no problem with this. Because they have reached the 20th level and are thinking about changing their profession, taking this opportunity, Kai introduced his new teammates to Yan and Fat Man Yu. The girl instantly introduced herself and called herself a fortune teller, saying that she had also heard about their exploits. The smiling fat man reluctantly said his name and introduced himself as a drunkard. The dumbfounded Juzi and Nuon still couldn't believe that the captain was already level 20, because they were only level 9. The self-confident Jiang stated that he intended to bring them to the 20th level, after which they all began to think together about the name of their team. Suddenly, Yuen suggested calling themselves the Gods of Fire. Supposedly they have fiery power. Kai liked the name and approved it. Then he ordered everyone to gather as much energy as possible so that they could hit the road by morning. Soon, they all went to the rookie area to collect positive chi. The commander noted that in a few hours they would reach the end of Shengyao City and end up on the Devil Star. But the sad Z said that he had some concerns about the professional talent of Warrior Heart, and he may not know his true power. Zhang began to encourage his teammate in every possible way, saying that he will succeed, but Zhu said that fear has settled in his heart and he cannot control it. But to acquire this technique, you must be fearless and consider yourself the best warrior. However, he fails to deceive himself and call himself the strongest cultivator. Kai began to analyze, because this talent could provide Juzi with additional bonuses and positive effects. In addition, with its acquisition, it was possible to gain new abilities, but Z's strength is not high, since he is not confident in himself. This means that the most important thing for him now is to strengthen his courage and activate his professional skills. At the same time, it would do well for Zhang himself to improve since he still had 50 pages left. As a result, the young man asked the system to improve 2 abilities, Ghost Eye Focus and Card in Hand. Thus, the teenager was able to throw various objects faster, but energy costs also increased, which in principle seemed acceptable to him. And besides, efficiency increased by 50%. Kai was also honored to receive another skill in the form of Gambler Time, which doubled the rate of fire, but also consumed a lot of chi. Eye focusing has also improved and the ability to track objects has appeared. Plus, Jiang could use various manipulations to confuse the enemy with the cards. A couple of days later, our valiant heroes finally arrived at the appointed place. This was the territory of the armored dragon. The young master walked to the cliff and looked down. The frightened Juzi noticed that the dragons here were at least level 25, and this was dangerous. Yan added fuel to the fire and stated that there are more than 100 of them here and they are all bloodthirsty. Apart from this, 50 monsters are at the combat level. Z was terrified, but such demons are extremely rare and appear only in a large gathering of dragons. Nuon, in turn, asked the commander how they could defeat so many elite monsters. However, Kai was sure that only danger stimulates the potential of their well-coordinated team. In addition, such areas are full of extremely useful materials, and there is even a chance to get the white-purple armored dragon treasure chest. And in the box of the black armored dragon, you can find material to upgrade a martial artist to the 20th level. Suddenly, Hu asked the captain if the bloodthirsty killer's punishment no longer affected him. The young man smiled and replied that for now he would keep it a secret. Moving deeper into the dense forest, they came across the tracks of one of the dragons. Suddenly, Zhu asked Yuen how he managed to overcome his fear of the banshee he had fought. Surprised Yu stated that he was not afraid of her. Z was shocked and asked him to teach him this technique. The fat man only gave him freshly brewed wine and said that alcohol helps with such things, but it is better not to drink too much. Zhu, in turn, is extremely grateful to Yuen and began to thank him for his help. At that moment, Kai felt the approach of something very strong and flew into the heights, ordering everyone to leave immediately. A moment later, a huge level 25th armored dragon appeared in front of them. Brave Zhang immediately blocked the monster's path and boldly rushed into the attack. His teammates began to worry about their commander and urged him to act carefully. However, the guy had a plan in mind, especially since it was not the right time to use the technique. And since the demon is not that strong, Kai believed that he would not be able to kill Juzi. Therefore, the teenager, in turn, decided to prove that Z was not a weakling. Everyone shouted at the captain not to stand still, but the guy deliberately backed away. At this moment, Zhu suddenly ran towards the armored dragon. And after a couple of seconds, he defeated the monster with a crushing blow, thereby saving Jiang. The members of the newly formed Fire Gods team were shocked by the sudden outburst of the warrior. The young master, in turn, praised his ward and said that he had done a good job. However, after a few seconds, the monster woke up and Juzi jumped to the side. At this time, the young cultivator dealt a powerful blow to the dragon in its weak spot, after which he informed Zhu that all that remained was to deal a fatal blow to the monster. But the warrior was still overcome by wild fear, and he could not overcome it. Finally, at a certain moment, the guy grabbed the blade and dealt the final blow to the dragon. Everyone began to shout his name and Su opened his eyes. He saw the bloody and lifeless body of the beast in front of him. For some time, he seemed unable to come to his senses and believed that he had done this with his own hands. Then he said that this snake appeared completely unexpectedly and scared him terribly, after which he busily noted that the captain needed to be faster. Otherwise, he would have been eaten by this monster. Kai pretended that his head was clouded and said that Zhu should actually protect him, but Z called himself a coward. At that moment, Nuon, admiring his courage, literally showered him with compliments. The rest of the team also noted his courage and incredible strength. Juzi matter-of-factly stated that it was just a job. Soon they all went to the dragon's lair. The road was not easy, as they met stronger monsters on the way. These were 3 elite individuals who guarded the fighting armored dragons. Kai thought that the ability map in the hand of the ghost should come in handy now. Jiang then asked Hu to summon rain for 10 minutes, which was not a problem for her given the recent improvement in technology. And Nuon will deal with the poison, and Yuen will ensure the safety of the girls and protect them. The commander also gave the task to Zai to go forward and delay the dragons, but it is not necessary to kill. And as soon as Yan called on her magical rain, Jiang and Zhu rushed to the animals. Naturally, the lizards hurried to block their path and protect their lair. Then the captain ordered the soldier to lead the armored dragons aside. Su, in turn, used his strongest abilities and got down to business. Kai went into a head-on collision and scattered demons in different directions. Moreover, with Gambler's skill, his strength increased by 100%, with the help of which the young man began to deal with opponents even faster. One by one, the dragons were burned by the commander, a skill that truly turned out to be extremely effective. The team was naturally happy about this result, because the main character and Zhu defeated 9 monsters. Nuon noted that even Captain Li could not deal with them so quickly. Meanwhile, the emboldened Juzi got the hang of it and killed another lizard, from which I received an increase in level and at the same time new abilities. The young master proudly said that he was proud of his teammates' achievements. Hugh stated that they worked well with the young cultivator and now their team will become even stronger. Nuan was surprised by the fact that Z was able to level up in just an hour. Of course, she also wanted to become stronger, so as not to be inferior to the guys in anything. The captain suddenly turned to her and said that somewhere in the rocks or crevices there was a treasure chest hidden. There should also be a warrior-level armored dragon in the forest. Zhu noted that he should take a little rest to gain much-needed energy. However, Zhang said that everything would be fine and began to look for a suitable path. But most importantly, they needed to act quickly so that the monster did not have time to call his brothers for help. After 10 minutes of wandering through the forest, they still didn't see anyone, which was quite strange. Kai used ghost eye focus but also didn't detect anyone. Walking further, Z began to behave strangely, and Yuen asked what was wrong with him. As it turned out, he became scared again. The irrepressible Yan could not miss the opportunity and said alarmingly that they still had a long way to go. Finally finding themselves in front of a rock in a clearing, they began to look around. Jiang once again used eye focus and sensed some danger. In connection with this, Kai instantly rushed to his teammates, calling on them to be on guard. The team members only had time to turn around when suddenly the rock began to move, and after a couple of seconds, the tail of the armored dragon completely rushed towards them. As a result, the monster dealt a crushing blow, but Yu and Hu and Z and Nuan managed to jump to the side. It was actually a destructive lizard of the highest rank. The frightened Zhu said that they did not notice him because the monster was the same color as the stone. Kai at that moment armed himself with his claws and ordered Nuan to inform him about the beast. The girl immediately asked for data and learned various characteristics about the dragon. The lizard was about 36 years old, and he weighed about 2 tons, while he had a 58th level. The commander realized that this was the first time they had encountered a warrior-rank demon. The team immediately attacked the dragon and scored 2 critical hits, which was already a good start. Kai understood that the stronger the enemy, the more treasures, but the monsters also became too dangerous. The white dragon was quite durable, as its skin was covered with steel, and it had over 35 points of armor. Moreover, even its belly was resistant to thermal damage and corrosion. Shocked team members asked the same question. Is it really impossible to break through his defense? Nuan began to read the rest of his stats, saying that the dragon's energy was 100 points, and his agility was 150. At the same time, the strength is about 400 points, and the physique is approximately 500. Meanwhile, the system constantly informed the main character about an extremely dangerous beast. Suddenly, the destructive lizard rushed towards the young master. As a result, he launched a powerful attack, but the young cultivator managed to escape it. Kai understood perfectly well that they could only run away, because their forces were incommensurable. But with his agility, he would be able to escape. And besides, it was necessary for Z to break through the dragon's defense. But if all else fails, all that was left was to take the animal further into the forest. However, if everything succeeds, then Zhu will become even stronger and more talented, which is what he needs. In this connection, Jiang called a soldier for help and Zhuzi instantly ran to the captain. Having dealt a crushing blow, everyone began to wait for the result, but it never came. The lizard was completely unharmed, and Su shouted to the commander that nothing had happened. Then the young man ordered him to run away immediately so that the monster could not reach him. The white dragon in turn instantly rushed to catch up with Juzi, but at that moment an explosion occurred. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Zhang hurried to pick up his ward from the battlefield. Hugh immediately shouted to Kai that Yuen's alcohol could lead to corrosion, and he tried to do so. But the guy understood that Yu could not withstand such power of the monster and would lose to him. At this time, the fat man had already entered the battle and blocked the dragon's attacks with an ice shield. But in the end, the monster threw him far back, and Yuen was thrown to the side. Jiang urged him to be careful with the lizard, especially since he had not sobered up. Yan noticed that he drank freshly brewed second-class alcohol to calm his fear. Yu himself was happy to meet the dragon and wanted to tear out his heart, after which he again thought that this was his only love, which he had been looking for so long. Nuan couldn't understand what was going on and why Yuen spoke as if he was also a dragon. The main character's team began to attack the destructive monster en masse, but Yu continued to be in a kind of alcoholic prostration and run after the lizard. The young master was infuriated by the behavior of the drunken fat man because he could not help him. Moreover, he could not take him away from the dragon, so he asked Juzi for help. Z was in shock and finally understood what Huen meant, because this was the absence of fear. Then Ju also generated some alcohol for himself and drank a whole mug. The system instantly reported that due to alcohol intoxication, his parameters had changed somewhat. Yu continued to run after the demon all this time and finally overtook what he wanted. The team became nervous again and began shouting the fat man's name so that he would come to his senses. The emboldened Tsu in turn snatched his blade and rushed to the attack. Subsequently, he began to deliver powerful blows to the dragon in the belly area. Kai asked him if Yuya's alcohol really helped him destroy the lizard's armor. Juzi stated that blind confidence allowed him to activate his skills, and he was eventually able to break through the monster's defense. This was incredible, because in fact the dragon's armor was much stronger than the Wolf Lord and the giant ape. At that moment, the guy became so proud of himself that he called himself the best warrior. However, karma overtook him instantly, and the lizard dealt him a crushing blow with its tail. Thus, Z fell to the ground, and the destroying dragon rushed to finish him off. But at this time, the team distracted him with another explosion and gave the captain the opportunity to come to Ju's aid. The commander instantly ran to his subordinate and helped him get up, thanking him for his help because if it weren't for him, the beast would have defeated them long ago. Then he climbed onto the defeated demon and began to deprive him of his power. Having made several powerful attacks, the guy achieved the desired result. The white dragon was driven into a trap and could not do anything to oppose Jiang. Then Kai said that he wanted to give the final blow to Juzi. The soldier grabbed his blade and slowly approached the bloody beast. Raising his sword above his head, Z shouted that he was the strongest warrior and no one would dare challenge him, after which Ju began to furiously beat the monster, not giving him a chance to catch his breath. The stunned Nuon asked the commander if everything was fine with Z. The main character urged her not to worry, since the guy just had a little too much to drink. Soon the young man defeated the white lizard and once again increased his level. Thus, he was already at the 15th stage and had obtained the dragon treasure. But suddenly, he lost consciousness and fell to the ground unconscious, because he had used up too much energy. Yan in turn noted that Juzi would most likely not wake up soon. Suddenly, Nuon said that she felt like they had forgotten something. A moment later, they remembered the fat man and began to actively search for Huen. Yu, meanwhile, was indignant that they dared to kill his wife. At a certain moment, he even tried to attack them, completely forgetting who was in front of him. But Nuon solved this problem instantly, and the fat man smelled a certain smell, from which he immediately fell to the ground, plunging into the deepest sleep. The girl said that he would still keep up with them, but at least he would get some sleep. The young cultivator and Hu suddenly asked her for some sleep potions, just in case. By that time it was late evening and our young masters took a break. Everyone went to bed except Nuon and the commander, who was looking down from the cliff and thinking about something. At that moment, the girl brought him water. The guy thanked her and took a couple of sips. Kai said that he could not even imagine how effective Yu's alcohol would be for Ju. Nuon asked if Z would be able to activate the rest of her talents in the near future. Then the teenager said that in fact he had never been weak and today he proved it, adding that he would just need more time for his confidence to overcome his fear. The next morning, everyone woke up, and Juzi could not calm down, because yesterday he was the main character. Hu noticed that in fact Huen also tried hard and his alcohol bore fruit. The praise in turn came in a humorous manner, as expected from Yan. However, Yu was absolutely not amused, and he continued to grieve over the slain dragon. Finally, the moment has come to find out what is inside the chest and what treasures await our heroes. Unexpectedly, Hu advised Nuon to open the box, since the hexagram showed that luck was on her side. The young master was not against it, especially since Yan was an experienced fortune teller. Unsure of herself, Nuon fearfully and extremely carefully approached the chest. Finally, the girl began to open the box and everyone froze in anticipation of the next miracle. After a couple of seconds, she took out a phosphate ore essence that was worth 500,000 coins. They were also lucky enough to acquire a core weighing 17 kilograms. Essence and blood crystals used to produce varying degrees of items. The bones of Tianzi were also worth a lot of money and were an item for exaltation. But the gifts didn't end there, and they took out from the chest a stone of mutated blood essence worth several million. 1/10 of a gram of such material could create a secret drug and cost $1 million, which delighted the captain. Suddenly, Kai realized that he had recently consumed secret medicines, and they turned out to cost more than $1 million. And just one bottle of such medicine could cost an incredible amount of coins. And if Zhang had known their price earlier, he would not have accepted them, but would have sold them and gotten rich. Unexpectedly, Nuon received holy water to go to the 20th level, as much as 15 milliliters. The fat man immediately started counting and said that one bottle could cost about 3 million yen. Juzi was also overly happy about this catch and noticed that Nuon was really lucky. Thus, it was possible to earn about 10 million from these materials. Jiang was happy to become the owner of such a chest because the team's profit increased to 15 million, taking into account the previous box. After that day, the Fire God's team cleared out this area much more often. Juzi, in turn, became even stronger and happily helped the commander in everything. Especially after drinking alcohol, the guy literally turned into a killing machine. Over the next 10 days, the team cleared several more zones and freed them of dragons. Thus, Z and Huen reached the 20th level, and Nuon rose to the 12th. Soon Hu asked Zhang where they would go next, since the local lands had already been cleared. Suddenly, Nuon dropped the plate of fruit from her hands. Yan asked what happened. The girl sadly stated that she had received a message, and one of the guilds encountered monsters. Those who killed them as a result were all shocked by what they heard and did not understand how this could happen. The fallen corpse. Lord was famous for his intimidation and elusiveness, and his level also exceeded 60. But at the moment he was recovering from his wounds, as Nuon reported. Hu noted that if the clans could defeat this monster, they would obviously become rich. Huen, in turn, could not understand why they went, knowing what danger awaited them ahead. The main character asked the girl when she received this notification and whether she knew about the number of demons. Nuon replied that the message arrived a couple of minutes ago, but there was really no information. The young master understood that the guilds would want to take advantage of the wounded boss and kill him, adding that they are obliged to get ahead of them and pay an uninvited visit to this Lord of Corpses. Yan said that even if they fail to kill him, then at least they have already defeated the dragon. The fat man and Nuon decided to follow their commander. They were also joined by the now fearless Juzi, who declared that they could not cope without him. Then the young cultivator said that from now on, their main goal was the next boss. The next day, our valiant warriors set off on the long journey to the Lord of Corpses. Walking on the hot ground, the team became unbearably hot, but they had to move forward. Tsu drew attention to rather strange trees, which were also covered with fiery cracks. Nuon said that this is Tian Huo, and if you cut it off, there is a small chance of getting the heart to raise the flame. Suddenly, Zhu saw members of the Qinglong Guild in the distance, and there were more and more of them. On the other hand, another clan was coming at them, which is what the fat man said. Yuen suggested that the team speed up, since there are already competitors here. Kai understood that they were clearly waiting for support and would soon go in search of the boss. Suddenly, Zhang noticed that Nuon had fallen behind the team and was having an extremely difficult time walking. The girl tried her best not to give in to weakness and continue on her way. However, her eyes closed on their own, and her mind became clouded. At that moment, the captain approached her. The guy gave her water and suggested she take a break because he realized that almost everyone except her had raised their level. In this connection, the young lady has a rather difficult time with her 12th level. Moreover, healers initially were not distinguished by endurance because their original task was to heal. Z noticed that it was really better for them to wait it out because there are a lot of high-ranking people here. Kai began to reason that there was a fallen overlord in the Flame Ridge, but the territory is too huge, and besides, there are other monsters on this land. And while the others were looking for an advantage, the perplexed Yan asked what exactly he meant. Jiang said that initially, they need to understand what they need to find the boss. Yu, in turn, wondered why their team should be the first to find the monster. Nuon also asked what they should rely on while searching for the Lord of Corpses. This gave the young master some thoughts, and he immediately began to think. Zhu, meanwhile, urged Hu to calculate on the hexagram whether they would be lucky with the boss today. But the main character agreed with Tsu and said that the advantage of their team was in her. After all, she was previously a feng shui master and should know exactly which place the monster will choose to recuperate. Suddenly, the girl began to see clearly and said that this place must have yang energy. But the young cultivator was sure that the Lord of the Dead did not have time to find the ideal location. Hu confidently stated that in this case she would definitely find the Lord of Corpses. After which Kai thought again and did not even feel the approach of Zhu, who asked what he was thinking about. Zhang said that he was thinking about promoting Nuon, especially since the materials for the transition to the 20th level had already been collected. Z continued to ask questions and asked what exactly these materials were. However, the guy said that they are not so rare as they need to be sorted out. And when the young man found the formula for moving to the 20th level, he deciphered a couple of words from there and understood something. The scroll said something about living water from unknown sources and flames that flashed from the air. Juzi naturally did not understand anything and began to clarify what exactly Kai was talking about. Thus, they needed to solve this riddle in order to know the truth. And if the unknown source could be rainwater, then the Liaoyang Ridge could be that very flame, because it is very hot there. At this moment, Jiang was unexpectedly called out by a member of the guild and recognized him as the same Kai. The arrogant thugs continued to provoke the fire god team in every possible way. Z asked how he knew them. The guy replied that most of the clan belonged to the Huang family. In this case, Zhu suggested that the commander teach them a lesson, but the teenager refused, since they are above their level and clearly did not come here for this, after which Jiang asked them what they needed. The bandit from the Huan clan began to list all of Kai's achievements and say that he was truly a brave warrior. At the same time, he became as close as possible to the young master. The guy silently looked into his eyes. Suddenly, Juzi stated that his captain was simply defending himself, and Wei had brought his henchmen. The girl from the guild did not like that Su interfered in the conversation of the commanders and hit him with a whip. However, Jiang blocked her attempts and did not give her the opportunity to attack her teammate, adding that he was always infuriated by annoying people like them. Kai then drew his blade and said that it seemed like it was time for them to die. The clan responded by saying that the teenager was taking on too much and now they would teach him manners. The young master understood that they were full of determination and they clearly could not avoid battle. Suddenly, Nuan recognized the leader of the clan as Shu and urged him to calm down and not start a circus here. The young cultivator, in turn, was extremely surprised that she knew Fei. The girl stated that she is a member of the Fire Gods team, and Kai is her commander. At this moment, Shu's henchmen told the captain that their main target was the boss, and they would deal with Jiang later. Moreover, Sister Nuan is a close person to the authorities, so Fei calmed down and hid the sword, adding that Kai was very lucky today, but next time no one will save him. Suddenly, Shu turned around and said that very soon he would tear out his eyes. The main character, in turn, silently looked at the thug, realizing that he could not put the team at risk. After which they finally left, discussing among themselves how such scum even got to this place. Juzi was furious and did not want to forgive such insolent people, but the guy called on him to calm down. Then he turned to Su and asked if she knew this Fei well. Nuan replied that he used to live in a military district, and then became a clan warrior, and his real fighting ability is equivalent to that of the air. Everyone was shocked at Shu's incredible level of skill, realizing that he was stronger than them. Su also said that he has a good reputation among the military as he is a martial artist by profession. At the same time, there are certain gradations from the 1st to the 20th level. This is a martial arts master from the 20th to the 40th warrior, and from the 40th to the 60th level he is the heir, and up to the 80th level he is an ancient warrior. Jiang had a feeling that they would soon meet in a guild competition. Meanwhile, Hu returned and informed the commander that she had found 3 ideal places with yang energy. The first is the Twilight Cemetery in the direction of Liao Yangling. The second is Shanyan Lake. There is also a low-lying basin located to the west of Liao Yangling. Su suggested going to the cemetery to look for the wounded Lord of Corpses. However, the captain confidently said that they would head specifically to the basin. The team could not understand what motivated Kai and why he decided to go there. Jiang then explained that most clans would go to the cemetery, so there was no point in going there. And the lake is actually not so hidden and secluded, but it is close to the city and everyone will go there. But the guilds will clearly ignore the basin, because it is the most difficult to get there. Kai continued to insist on his own and stated that this was the most logical solution. After a couple of hours, the Fire Gods team finally arrived at the basin. Zhu noted that there is no need to study feng shui since this is an extremely gloomy place. However, there was enough space to hide, so you'll have to work. Jiang said that the boss would most likely look for a cave or lair to heal his wounds. Unexpectedly, Nuan gave all her teammates potions to prevent severe damage, and with an effect of 12 hours, thus the team stayed in the clearing for a short time to take this drug. After walking for a few more hours, Juzi asked the young master to organize a halt, as he was tired. But his teammates said that if he lags behind them, the Lord of Corpses will overtake him. The frightened Su asked if he could find them so easily. Hugh began to say in a terrifying voice that the Lord of the Dead was very hungry and clearly smelled them. Zhu literally imagined a terrible picture for a couple of seconds and immediately ran forward. Saying that he had already rested a little and was ready to move on, the team only laughed at him. The young cultivator asked Yan not to scare the young man like that anymore, because he was already weak in spirit. At this time, Su ran forward and did not notice the stone on which he tripped and fell to the ground. Everyone immediately rushed to his aid, trying to get up. Zhu saw something incredible. He pointed to a certain magical seal and asked in a trembling voice if they could see it. In front of them was a broken tombstone with green symbols floating in the air. Yan noticed that someone had hidden the grave well, and they almost passed by it. Huen wondered if the Lord of Corpses could hide in such a small grave. Suddenly, the grave began to crumble, and the earth literally shook under the feet of our heroes. Commander Zheng ordered the team to immediately disperse and be on guard. Everyone started to run away, but Zhuzi stood still and looked at the magical grave. Kai ordered him to engage in a head-on collision while he prepared a trap. Meanwhile, the grave completely went underground, which began to seem to be loosening and emitting green fireflies. The captain said that if Tsu fails to defeat the boss on his own, then he should run away, and he will detain him. A moment later, a huge Lord of the Dead emerged from the ground and headed towards them. The commander ordered everyone to immediately prepare for the upcoming clash. For unknown reasons, the monster went towards the frightened Zhu. The guy was very scared and he almost dropped his sword from his hands, backing away. Suddenly, the demon used his heartbreaking scream and Tsu flew to the side, after which he generated his alcoholic drink and hurried to drink it. Then, plucking up courage, he again drew his blade and fearlessly rushed into battle. Stating that he is the strongest and best warrior the world has ever seen, Zhuzi continued to attack the Lord of the Dead, but the demon also fought back. At a certain moment, the soldier nevertheless broke through his defense and pierced the monster's body. But at the same time, his blade got stuck in the body of the Lord of Corpses, which is what the team noticed. Realizing that the situation was out of control, the main character urged Z to run away. However, the guy did not have time to do this and received significant damage from the monster. As a result, Zhu literally flew into a tree and simply demolished it with his body. The boss, in turn, hurried to finish off the warrior. It seemed that Tsu had no chance to survive, but the young master rushed to the aid of his teammate and attacked the demon. Subsequently, the young cultivator literally enveloped the Lord of the Dead in fire. Yan and Yuen instantly rushed to pull Zhuzi towards the trees. Thus, they were able to wound the Lord of Corpses, but Z was also weakened. Hugh suddenly turned her attention to Nuon, who was typing something into her system. It was incredible, but at this time the boss was easily healed, and even the wound healed. Su tried to find out about his weak points, where she saw information that he could resurrect the dead and regenerate health. Kai continued to fight the demon and shouted that all his wounds continued to heal. Even in a state of broken armor and serious injuries, the fallen overlord was extremely strong. Nuon at that moment shouted to Jiang that he needed to hit the heart, otherwise he would regenerate everything. Then the guy understood why all his attempts were in vain, because he needed to hit the heart. Suddenly the boss switched to the healer and ran towards her. It seemed as if he understood exactly what she advised the captain to do. Naturally, the teenager also rushed towards her and urged the young lady to run away immediately. At the same time, the commander tried to shoot down the Lord of the Dead and inflict at least some damage on him. However, suddenly the corpse's hand came out of the ground and tried to grab Kai. Jiang escaped her, but at the same time hit the boss's hand, which began to squeeze his body. In just a few seconds, the fallen corpse lord had broken all of the teenager's bones. It was unimaginable pain, but the guy continued to hold on and tried to get out. However, he never managed to do this. The team was also powerless. Meanwhile, the monster has already brought the main character to its mouth to devour him. He rushed to the young master but understood that she could not help. Then the enraged Zhuzi boldly rushed into battle to try to recapture the commander. Nuon urged him to be careful, as the boss began to secrete corpse poison, which is symbolized by the purple mist. Also in the arsenal of the Lord of the Dead, there was blue and black poison, which were deadly, and even Su with his numerous medicines will not be able to help remove all the toxins of these poisons. The fallen corpse. Lord's strength was truly incredible. Despite his injuries, he was able to continue fighting. Nuon also realized that Z's strength was not enough to defeat the monster. At this moment, Fatty Yu drank alcohol and grabbed his ice shield, after which he bravely rushed to the Lord of the Dead in order to save his commander. Su wanted to stop him. Hu grabbed her hand and said that she had better stay here. After all, she is their only healer, and if something happens, they need her help, Su agreed. The young warrior herself rushed to run towards the powerful boss. Stunned, Nuon asked what exactly she was up to and where she was going. Hue replied that she needed to get closer to make her reign. The healer could not calmly watch how everyone was fighting, and she was standing on the sidelines. After all, even as a doctor, she is good for nothing, because her life has always been like this. In the sense that the girl was always protected by her older sister and protected from the dangers of this world. But when the Devil Star rose and strong monsters began to appear all over the world, it was necessary to learn martial arts. And her father went to war with demons. When Sue went into the army, it seemed to her that she could become hope and support for her comrades. And once on the Devil Star, she was lucky enough to meet Kai and Juzi. And it was thanks to Jung that she followed her sister's example and believed that she was closer to her dream. But since arriving in the army, Nuon has constantly grieved over her low level. Sometimes it seemed to her that she would never be able to become a full-fledged healer and help others. At this time, the team was still fighting the Lord of the Dead. While Sue doubted herself, she was tormented by doubts. Faith gradually faded away in her, although she understood that she needed to pull herself together. At a certain moment, the Lord of Corpses found time for another attack. As a result, he attacked the members of the Fire Gods team and caused them significant damage. The captain shouted in a choked voice to his subordinates to leave. Nuon thought it was all over, and she was never able to become a useful teammate. After another attack from the monster, Juzi flew into a tree, and Fatty Yu also landed painfully. The shocked Sue immediately ran up to the wounded Z and Huen, not knowing what to do. Soon the girl finally came to terms with her uncertainty and began treating her comrades. For some time, the healer successfully carried out the recovery process. However, absolutely the entire forest was clouded with poisonous clouds and nothing was visible. A moment later, the rain that Jan called for began to fall, and the purple mist dissipated. Who continued to increase the effect of the magical rain, trying to turn it into hail? The boss didn't seem to understand what was happening or why his poison cloud had disappeared. At the same time, he squeezed the body of the young master more and more, who could sigh with awe. The main character began to think that it was in vain to go after this fallen Lord of Corpses. Meanwhile, the boss carried out an extremely successful attack and injured fortune teller Yan. Nuon, in turn, instantly ran up to the bloodied Hu, trying to help her. The young cultivator continued to think that this was the end, and now he would not be able to take revenge on the Huang family. Kai had already gotten used to this idea, although he hoped for a positive outcome. After all, hope always dies last. At that moment, the healed Ju and Yu rushed into battle again, inflicting crushing blows on the Lord of the Dead, but they could do little to harm him. Yuen, in turn, also hurried to attack the monster with his shield. Suddenly, Jiang found the strength to believe that he could still win this fight. Remembering his family because Yingzi's sister and brother are waiting for his return, as did the members of the Fire Gods team, who were ready to lose their lives to save him. Over the course of several attacks, the boss finally released the mutilated teenager from his hands. Kai experienced incredible pain all over his body and could not get to his feet. Concerned, Sue ran up to him and asked what they should do, because this monster was quite strong. Jiang tried to calm her down and come up with a way to cure him, because almost all his bones were broken. Finally collecting her thoughts, the healer began the recovery process. By that time, the Lord of the Dead had grabbed Yuen and Z with his long tongue, whom he was already trying to swallow. However, at the most crucial moment, the commander appeared and naturally did not allow him to do this. Subsequently, the captain dealt him a powerful blow, and the demon spat his friends onto the ground. Nuon looked at her wounded teammates in fear, while the main character again rushed to the boss. Suddenly, the young master turned to Sue and said that he was counting on her support. At that moment, the Lord of Corpses unexpectedly struck Kai, but the guy managed to jump to the side. The healer stated that with the help of the tears of the immortal bird, she could heal Jiang 100%. However, there is a side effect in which after use, the traveler loses consciousness within a minute and dies. But this did not frighten the brave young cultivator at all, and he discovered the potion. After which he said very confidently that only a few seconds would be enough for him. Finally taking the medicine, the teenager continued his brutal battle with the monster. But by that time, the Lord of Corpses had once again released a poisonous mist. Kai also noticed that the Yan storm suddenly stopped, which means it was time to act. At that moment, Jiang saw another hand of the dead man moving underground towards him. The ground literally loosened, and the hand tried to grab the young man, but this time he was much faster. At the same time, the commander managed to transform and arm himself with his claws. Then the fallen corpse lord released a poisonous cloud again. Kai ran back. A couple of seconds later, Jiang's fiery blades flew out of the fog towards the boss. However, the fast demon managed to dodge the attack but never saw the captain himself, who in turn began to act extremely carefully. Suddenly an explosion occurred. The Lord of the Dead began to turn his head, not understanding where exactly the guy was attacking from. A moment later, Kai's claws rushed at him again, but the monster once again eluded them, after which he began to strike in the fog, hoping to hit the resourceful young man. Suddenly, he discovered a hole in the ground and realized that Jiang was underground. At this time, the young master was behind him and rushed towards him. Releasing his sharpest blades, Kai was finally able to hit the target, thus causing significant and extremely painful damage to the monster. But at the same time, the Lord of Corpses managed to seize the moment and grabbed Jiang. Thus, he again clamped the teenager in his hand and did not give him the opportunity to move. Nunai was terrified and believed that this time the angry monster would not let him go. The fallen Lord of the Dead slowly brought Kai to his mouth, not expecting any resistance. But suddenly Jiang stabbed him right in the heart, saying that things were not that simple. The main character said that he only pretended to be caught in order to carry out a sneak attack. The sudden pain caused the boss to loosen his grip, and the young master fell from his hand. The young cultivator knew that the advantage was finally on his side. The Lord of the Dead at this time was writhing in pain and could not do anything about it. The end result was that the demon boss crashed to the ground near Jiang. Kai completely forgot about the side effect of the drug and his eyes began to slowly close. Stunned, Nuan ran up to him to try to heal him, but it seemed it was already too late. She couldn't believe what was happening and at the same time admired the commander, who did everything so cleverly with his magical claws and defeated the thug, hitting him in the heart, which was the end for the fallen corpse lord. Unexpectedly, Sue discovered that the boss was not actually dead and was still breathing. Then the girl stood up and drew her dagger to finish what she started. Nuan grabbed the cutlass with both hands and raised it above her head to finish him off. But at that moment, the Lord of the Dead opened his eyes and reached out to her with his hand. Sue jumped back in a timely manner and declared that no one else could help him. Then she finally plunged the knife into the heart because he beat her teammates. At that moment, it was as if the dark side had awakened in her, and she ended his suffering with particular cruelty. The next day, the Fire God's team began to rest and recuperate. Nuan also helped Kai recover and encouraged him to take more of her medicine. Suddenly, Jiang cast a mysterious glance at the girl. Sue could not understand what was the matter. In this connection, she asked him why he was looking at her like that. The guy replied that she had become strong and her journey was just beginning. Nuan was surprised by his words. After all, she believed that, on the contrary, she had become a burden for them since she did not particularly help in the battle with the boss. However, the young man said that in fact she underestimates herself and everything is wrong. In addition, Sue constantly helped her teammates and always defended her position. And when the Lord of Corpses was on his last legs, it was she who dealt him the decisive blow. Nuan constantly sacrificed herself without thinking about personal safety, which is very important. And despite the fact that healers do not have much combat power, she still contributed to the development of the team. Jiang concluded that she was extremely necessary in their clan and everyone needed her. The girl, in turn, even shed a tear from such pleasant words of the protagonist. At this moment, all the teammates confirmed the words of the young master and stated that she helped them a lot and healed them, adding that it is with her help that they feel much more confident. Suddenly, Nuan burst into tears, saying that they were also very important to her. After a couple of hours, the entire team had regained their strength, and the young cultivator urged them to continue on their way. Naturally, everyone was in a fighting mood and agreed to continue the journey. But first of all, it was necessary to open the magical treasure chest. After all, according to rumors, the box of the Lord of the Dead contains very expensive items. Finally, they opened the treasured chest and began to receive their gifts. Kai received the Mad Flame Blade worth 350,000 star coins, which was equivalent to 3.5 million Shengyao coins, since the weapon was level 80. After which, Jiang took out some armor and asked Sue what kind of armor it was. Surprisingly, she did not have any notes, which indicated how unique the uniforms they received were. Nuan then identified the armor using the military card she received from the army. At that same second, the armor suddenly shone blue and literally blinded everyone around. As it turned out, this was the highest armor of a necromancer, and it had many positive characteristics. Juzi was shocked by such statistics of the uniform because it even increased the spirit by 70 points. The commander noted that, if desired, the armor can be worn even at level 60 or 20. The armor could also absorb sound attacks without causing any damage to its owner and his allies. The armor had a huge number of different abilities and could slow down the enemy. As a result, the team received a lot of weapons and armor, but they were all of high levels, and Sue offered to sell them. Juzi suddenly discovered a luminous object at the bottom of the chest, and curiosity took over. A moment later, Sue took out an unknown ring from the box. The girls were delighted. Nuon immediately began to identify the jewelry to recognize its beneficial properties. At this time, the system gave Kai the Death God card. The teenager was surprised. This card was available only to gamblers and without any level requirements. Moreover, it was one of the 9 main cards. Zhang was delighted with such a gift. After all, thanks to it, the captain's accuracy will increase at least 3 times, which will become a real nightmare for all the monsters encountered along the way. He also became curious about abilities and whether he needed to move to the next rank for this. But most importantly, the Death God card increased its properties depending on the increase in attributes. The system also hastened to explain to the owner about the special effects, the first of which was an additional 50 attacks, but the enemy had to survive. The second property was no less strange, where the cultivator increased its power if it did not dodge blows. The third effect was much more useful and consisted in the fact that the card could not be lost or torn. Kaye was shocked in a good sense of the word by this discovery and thanked the artificial intelligence. However, at the same time, the teenager wondered where he could find the remaining 8 cards of the God of Death. At that moment, the trees behind the main character began to shake and the birds flew into the air. The young master instantly used Ghost Eye Focus, with the help of which he discovered that one of the clans was heading towards them and his team was not in the best condition. And if they found out that their guild had defeated the boss and taken all the treasures, they would definitely try to kill them, so they hurried to leave. At this time, Supreme Commander Wei was in his office and had only one thing on his mind. Suddenly, he was called out by his assistant who came to the boss with news, stating that another country had discovered a connection to the teleportation system. In turn, remained silent, literally immersed in the thought process. After all, he understood that due to the low degree of development, the Devil Star remained under threat. But just recently, everything was different, and it was possible for everyone to coexist together. Countries one after another opened a teleportation system in the Lost Lands, which were distributed throughout the Devil Star area and connected to the Lost Land public area. The area was a vast wasteland, and the location changed every 6 months. There are also many unexplored and mysterious ruins in the Lost Land. Treasures and various secret materials are almost always hidden inside them. But with all that said, only level 60 travelers could get there. And when the number of participating countries reaches 80, war will be officially declared. Everyone will compete with each other for certain keys with which they can get into the lost ruins. The assistant also reported that only 49 countries had discovered the teleportation system, adding that they need to gain a place in the Lost Lands in order to find the hidden treasures. All this time, Wei smoked silently and looked out the window. The girl asked if he could hear her. Unexpectedly, Ying ordered her to gather the representatives of the National Association for an urgent meeting. Meanwhile, Kai was returning from the trading house to his teammates, who immediately asked if he managed to sell all the items. Jiang responded positively and stated that they were sold out in seconds, and he also bought his friends the necessary materials for the transition. The members of the Fire Gods team were immensely happy about this and thanked the commander. Nuon suddenly said, a couple of days ago, she heard that the party held a National Association Congress. At that moment, Kai heard the clans discussing the upcoming tournament among themselves. Some people preferred the Xuanwu Guild because they had done a tremendous amount of work this year. Juzi and Yuen had a different opinion and hastened to voice it to their captain, declaring that they would defeat everyone and definitely achieve results. But Zhang suddenly called on them to look into the clan. Everyone immediately started asking him what he was talking about because they were their own guild, but the guy said that it was a secret. Soon, our valiant heroes went to the region of the clans, where the young master led them. Arriving at the place, the young cultivator joyfully announced that they had arrived. Yu asked if they really needed to join another guild. Juzi noticed that the area looked abandoned and didn't even have a name. Suddenly, it dawned on the teammates and they asked if this was the commander's building. The main character calmly walked up to the gate and leaned the card against the reader. Kai confirmed their guesses. It was the Guild of Gods in Area C. Everyone was shocked. They literally froze at the door and couldn't believe what was happening. Once inside, the team found that the mansion looked absolutely gorgeous. Joyful Zhang hurried to invite them into the house to get thoroughly acquainted with everything. Stunned, Zhuzi asked when he managed to acquire a new clan. Hue was also pleasantly surprised by the sudden move to such a unique place. The team members walked around the building and various front gardens for a long time. Realizing that all this costs millions, Kai had actually been planning to build this castle for a long time. And from the moment he learned about the competition, he began construction. And when Jiang asked to join the guild, he was rejected. That's why he went against Huan's family and decided to start his own clan. Everyone was happy because they had their own home on the territory of the Devil's Star. After some time, Z analyzed his characteristics and found out that he had become a full-fledged warrior of the 21st level. He hurried to inform the commander about this, because at the same time, he received new abilities. Zhu also gained the ability to increase his attributes by 10%, and with each increase in the level of the soldier, he would receive an additional 7 stat points. The captain, in turn, praised him. Hu pointed out that a career in martial arts is extremely important and deserves to be the strongest profession in Shengyao. The joyful Zhuzi said that this is not all, and he has a couple of surprises. During battle, he could distribute attributes to later achieve a state of high sensitivity and increased attack. And at the end of the battle, he could easily restore his attributes. Yan and the captain were sincerely happy for him. Jiang noticed that Z had become an incredible warrior and would soon even catch up with him. Suddenly, they noticed the sad Yuen and asked what was the matter. Yu replied that he too had moved to a new stage of development, but he remained a drunkard, and only after the 20th level will he be able to increase his characteristics by 20 points. However, the fat man couldn't calm down. Hu suddenly asked how anyone could enjoy drinking alcohol. Yun said that the state of alcoholic fun intensely stimulates his subconscious, and this can be compared with something, but his teammates demanded a specific example from him. Yu, in turn, avoided answering and asked not to develop this topic. The perplexed team members could not understand why it was difficult to give a clear example. Meanwhile, Nuan went to the room to awaken, but did not return. Zhu began to get nervous, but Yan assured that this was an extremely labor-intensive process and she needed a little more time. After a couple of minutes, the trembling Su finally left the room. There was deathly silence. Su assumed that she had failed and began to encourage her teammate. But the main character implied that everything was completely wrong, and she had something to tell them about. Suddenly, the girl joyfully announced that she had received the specialization of a doctor and reached the 21st level. She also mastered a new ability called toxin analysis. Thus, Nuan could increase the effectiveness of her medicines by 10% and her poisons by 50%. Fatty Yu noticed that Su would now follow the path of using various poisons. The young lady couldn't stop boasting and said that she could now even remove the toxin from the potions. The young master stated that all the team members had awakened and done a good job. But extremely serious opponents await them ahead, which means they need to train even harder. Naturally, the Fire Gods Guild was in solidarity with its commander. After a week of wandering through the forest in search of various animals, Zhu noticed that he had become even stronger. Thus, he rose to the 25th stage, Nuan became the 24th stage, and Hu moved to the 31st stage. And the Eternal Drunkard advanced to the 25th level and earned a couple of new skills. Soon, the organizers of the competition announced the list of participating guilds, where it was as if someone had arranged a match for their clan, putting them against Xuanwu, where Da was. Hu, like everyone else, understood that in fact the Huang family clearly had a hand in this. Enraged, Zhu suggested visiting the military and finding out what was happening. However, the young cultivator stated that he had long wanted to destroy this upstart Da. The team was shocked by the captain's words and tried to dissuade him, but it was useless. The teenager really wanted to see what he was capable of and what the outcome would be. The next day, the Great Guild Tournament started, and the stands were filled with spectators, after which the host of this event came out and announced the opening of the competition, then listed the participants. Naturally, the vast majority of people supported the Xuanwu clan. At this moment, the guild, led by Da, entered the arena where they were greeted by spectators. The other teams were well aware that the Xuanwu were extremely strong, but there were others. However, Hong said that this is just a qualifying round and the most interesting things will happen later. The captain urged Shuang not to become arrogant ahead of time, because among the participants there was a person who broke a 30-year record. Of course, everyone understood perfectly well that we were talking about the great and powerful Zheng. Huang, in turn, was confident that he would certainly defeat the young cultivator. By that time, the Fire God's team had not appeared in the arena, and Da began to say that Kai was afraid. But after a couple of seconds, the young master entered the arena, followed by his clan. The commander looked menacingly at his opponent, and Juzi asked if he had called them.